Good morning, everyone. How are we doing, Mr. Impy? I turned it down a little, by the way. I hope that helped. If you were feeling the morning head spinnies, it's not. It wasn't any louder than it was like normally, so I'm gonna have to blame you. That's what you get for late night binge drinking. But good morning, everyone. This fine Sunday morning. Some of us it's much later. I think you guys over in the UK it's afternoon. And then for US Jordan out on the West Coast, it's like I haven't seen the fucking sun yet. But
I didn't know the world existed this early.
So yeah, we're all over the place here. So once again, this is our second What's the Crack, Marra? And it's basically a roundtable discussion by a bunch of old-timer dungeon masters who have just played this game for a very long time, and we are going to discuss the future of D&D, which is called 1D&D still. I don't know if they're going to rename it, if it's going to be 5.5 or 6th edition, who knows. But yeah, this is going to be to discuss the Unearthed Arcana that has already been released and is in playtest. So I'm not in charge of this thing. I am not running this this show today. I'm just hosting it, and the show is actually being officially hosted and run and curated by our dear old Sammy. So, Sammy, I will let you take it away, and you can do the introductions and what we're going to talk about today. So it's over to you, Professor.
Yeah, so as Matt said, this is the second live stream or second episode that we've done surrounding 1D&D. If you don't know what 1D&D is, it is the next iteration of Dungeons and Dragons. Some people call it 6th edition, but it is effectively the next edition that they are releasing in 2024. Since that was announced, they've released several test/beta documents called Unearthed Arcana documents, that basically include playtest material and things that they're going to change, things that they're going to bring in, things that they're going to remove in this next iteration of the rules, so that the community can look at it and give feedback accordingly. What we'll be doing today is reviewing it and discussing it. The previous live stream was focused on primarily the first Unearthed Arcana, which included all the species, the backgrounds, and some of the feats. Today, we're going to be focused on the 4 classes that they've released in these 3 documents, and they'll be the Bard, the Cleric, the Rogue, and the Ranger. We might touch on a couple of other things here and there, but that's the bulk of what we're going to be talking about today. I'll frequently put the link to all the 1D&D stuff that you can find on D&D Beyond in the chat as we go along. So you can follow along with that as well if you want to pull up the documents that we're going to be talking about. And yeah, we'll start off like we did last time with a quick introductory segment where we'll just introduce who we are, anything that we do online, and maybe just kind of the experience that we have with D&D. But like Matt said, everyone bar me here is all kind of dungeon masters, some with decades of experience, some with a couple of years of experience. But that's why this is so great, because everyone's got different takes and different experiences with the game.
I feel called out by that, by the way. Decades of experience.
Some of us are closer to being corpses than others.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that will make compelling content. So yeah, if you watch Matt's channel frequently, you'll know me from his Strixhaven game, where I play the elven blade singer known as Charlotte Briarsong. I've only had DM experience through running a one shot, but I've played the game since 2015, effectively since the start of 5th edition. So I know a lot when it comes to 5th edition rules and how things are changing going into 1D&D. But these other 4 guys are a bit more experienced on that front. So I'll pass it over to them, and we'll start with the uh, new person joining us that wasn't here in the last live stream, and that is Jordan, also known as For Shame Not Honor. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Jordan. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Jordan. I'm the DM over, as he said, over at For Shame Not Honor. We stream every Sunday. I've been playing D&D since I was 13. I switched over to Vampire for a while, and then I started running D&D 5th Ed right before COVID, and then we went and started live streaming and running through COVID now. So that's where most of my experience has come from. And then I joined Matt's stuff. That's about it.
Nice. We'll go to the other Jordan. So we have got 2 Jordans today. We got American and British Jordan.
And they may be fighting by the end of the day, like, because there can be only one. So
They can be. I was gonna bring the tavern next to my apartment has a bunch of Jordans, and I was like, they can be only one. Then I found out the door guard was also a Jordan. I'm like, I won't bring a sword for this.
Maybe you're like Sith slow. Like there's a master and an apprentice. You see.
There you go.
That explains it.
yeah, but they also still kill each other. So go ahead, Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I've been a DM for roughly about 10 years now, give or take. Started in 4th, on the tail end of 4th edition because everything was free, and then moved our way into 5th edition. And yeah, that's about me.
10 years.
Nice. Jack.
Hello, I'm Jack. I started playing with 5th edition in the start of 2017, and then I started DMing towards the end of 20. Was 2020? Yeah, it was 2020. Yeah, with the Curse of Strahd campaign, featuring Sam here. I currently DM for a game with Sam and British Jordan, playing Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus, and I also stream with the Fate of the Dice channel, running a Curse of Strahd campaign, which I will be doing this evening, shortly after getting out of here.
Nice.
So you're gonna be on stream all day.
Yeah,
I
got out in the morning, but yeah.
So yeah, I've been there all day. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Should I tell people who I am? Old timer. Yeah. I'm the old guy here. So yeah, I'll just sit here in my adult diapers because apparently that's how I play D&D. But yes, I am the longest term dungeon master. I've been running games since I was 8. And that was a really long time ago. But I'm at 42 years of running games. So yeah, I am the old timer. I am, as American Jordan said, closer to death than everyone else here. So this is my channel. I am RolePositiveGaming. My name is Matt, and I do everything, like all things D&D, on this channel. Sammy plays in my Saturday Strixhaven game, and American Jordan. It just sounds so weird, this American Jordan, British Jordan, but it's necessary. But American Jordan actually plays in my Weight of Tears campaign, which streams Monday nights from 7 to 11 p.m. Yeah, 1 to 11. It's a long fucking game. 7 to 11 p.m. So you can check that out as well. And yeah, I like doing all kinds of weird shit. I have probably played more TTRPG games than anyone I know, actually, and oftentimes with the creators themselves. So yes, I have actually sat at Gary Gygax's table twice at conventions. So yeah, I'm fucking. That's a hold on. That's a flex right
That's
there.
a flex, yeah.
That's a flex. Um,
Flexing like a
Dropping
leech.
some names.
but yeah. So that's me in a nutshell, I guess. And let's get down to brass tacks and let's talk some Unearthed Arcana and 1D&D.
Yes, let's do just that. So to recap again, this stream will be split into two halves. The first break will be happening at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. But we're going to kick it off, like I said in the introduction, with talking about these new classes: the Bard, the Cleric, the Rogue, and the Ranger. And what I'm going to kick off with first, actually, before we dive into those four, is this thing that they've called class groups. And if you haven't seen what they are, there are basically now 4 different groups, and within those groups are the core 12 classes. So first off, you have the expert group, which contains the Bard, the Ranger, and the Rogue. You have the mage group, which contains the sorcerer, the wizard, and the warlock. The priest group, which contains the cleric, the druid, and the paladin. And the warriors group, which contains the barbarian, the fighter, and the monk. They've also noted that the artificer is also going to be a part of the expert group, but looking at the language that they've used, the artificer won't be part of the 1D&D player's handbook, and that class will be released in a further future book. But yes, and like I said, the ones that they've released so far are all of the expert classes and the cleric from the priest class. So yes, the first one we're going to talk about is the Bard. Now, like I just said, the Bard is part of the expert group. Its primary ability, like it was in 5th edition, is charisma. And in terms of its hit dice, proficiencies, and armor that it gets, these are all the same that you would find in 5th edition, so no changes there. The starting equipment is also similar, but I will recap the sample starting equipment that they give you. So for the Bard, it's a dagger, an entertainment's pack, a suit of leather armor, a musical instrument you can choose yourself, a short sword, and 18 gold pieces. Or if you want, like with 5th edition, you can forego all of that and you gain 100 gold pieces worth of equipment that you can handpick yourself. Now, Jack was an absolute saint, and before this stream kind of compounded a change log of kind of all the things that were introduced, removed, or changed from the 5th edition Bard to the 1D&D Bard. So what I'll do is I'm just going to run through all of that, and then we're going to talk about specific things within it, rather than just go through the whole class. So bear with me. This might be a little bit long, but I'll try my best to rattle through it as quickly as possible. So the bards have unfortunately lost proficiency in the hand crossbow, longsword, and rapier. It's retained its proficiency in the short sword because this is a simple weapon, and so that remains. Bardic Inspiration is now used as a reaction and can be used as a healing word replica, and its uses scale with proficiency bonus as opposed to your charisma modifier like in 5th edition. There are various spellcasting changes that I'll talk about soon. They've added a new feature called Songs of Restoration, but conversely, they've removed the Song of Rest feature. They've gained an additional subclass feature. Magical Secrets is now more flexible, but has 1 fewer use. Superior Bardic Inspiration is also more flexible. And like all the classes that you'll see here, they have gained an Epic Boon at level 20. Additionally, the following features have been moved. So you'll now find Expertise is being brought from 3rd level to 2nd level. Jack of all trades have been pushed back from 2nd level to 5th level. Font of Inspiration has been pushed back from 5th level to 7th level. Expertise has been brought forward from 10th level to 9th level. Magical Secrets has been pushed back from 10th and 14th level to 11th and 15th level. And Superior Bardic Inspiration has been brought forward from 20th level to 18th level. And that kind of ties into what I just said regarding the epic boons. So every class will get an epic boon at 20th level, and their previous 20th level feature will has now been moved to 18th level accordingly. So I know that was a lot to take in. But what we're going to focus on first is the spellcasting changes. So previously, if you didn't know, bards would learn new spells as opposed to preparing spells like druids and clerics did. And now, instead of having their own spell list, they will pull their spells from the arcane spell list. However, those spells from the arcane spell list have to fall under the divination, enchantment, illusion, and transmutation schools of magic. Previously, you had a number of spells you knew and a corresponding table of spell slots. The spell slots hasn't changed, and what you do now is you prepare a number of spells that are equal to those spell slots, basically. And you can also now change out your cantrips on a long rest, which you couldn't originally do. So I will stop talking now because I've been talking for a while, and I'll pass this one over to Jack, since he was the one that put all these change logs together. It makes sense that he goes first and gets a chance to speak first. So Jack, anything you want to speak about in terms of everything I just said, but specifically kind of the spell casting? Do you think these are good changes, bad changes, anything that you would like to see change in regards to spell casting from, this beta testing now to the actual document itself?
Thank you. So, I think most of the changes have been to, most of the feature changes have been to the benefit of the bard. I mean, I know they only get 2 lots of magical secrets rather than 3, but it's a bit easier to use, and you don't have that risk of you get a spell that's useful at like 10th level and then sort of drops off in uses later on. Not having superior bardic inspiration sort of be good. You don't have to drain the well dry before you can get any more back. Is nice. I think bardic inspiration was often used as a reaction at some tables, just because if you've used the bonus action to give it to someone, they might forget they have it and not use it. That was always the advantage of playing in person. You could just physically place a die in front of the person, and they had this reminder. But there isn't really that good an equivalent on a virtual tabletop. As for the spellcasting changes, if I remember correctly, I think that actually gives the bard more spells they can prepare overall. Because I think they were previously had 22 spells known, and then Magical Secrets gave them another 6 for 28. But with this change, they now get 22 spells prepared, plus another 4 from Magical Secrets, then plus the 5 from Songs of Restoration. So that would give them 31. As for the actual changes to the spell list, I do have a change log of all the spells, and they lose some good ones, they gain some good ones. Shame Dimension Door's gone, but they get Fly, and that sort of thing. I've generally thought some of the changes are all right, pretty good. Although I do note that the movement of font of inspiration from 5th level to 7th level, I'm not sure that was strictly necessary, and it feels like some of the features, whilst good, have been pushed back a little further than they needed to be. But generally, I've been sort of happy with the new bard.
Yeah, it kind of looks like they've, buffed their spell casting, like you said. They now essentially know more spells, and they can switch every single spell that they prepare for that day out for new spells the next day. Things of that iteration. So, but yeah, and then conversely, you've got a couple of features that have been pushed back. But to me, it still seems pretty nice. And one of those things that you touched on is Song of Restoration, which, as I said in the summary, that replaces Song of Rest now. So to give you a little bit of detail on what Song of Restoration does, you basically get these spells prepared for free when you reach certain levels. So at second level, you always have Healing Word prepared. At fourth level, you always have Lesser Restoration prepared. At sixth level, you always have Mass Healing Word prepared. At 8th level, you always have Freedom of Movement prepared, and at 10th level, you always have Greater Restoration prepared. Now, just looking at those spells at face value, those are all really good spells, and spells that are going to come up quite often. The downside of that is there's no more additional healing on a short rest for the party that you would have got from that Song of Rest. But now you have these extra spells that are always prepared, and 9 times out of 10, I would say most bards would probably take some of those spells anyway. And in doing so, you would use up one of those spells that you know. So it does free up kind of your spell repertoire, and it kind of makes it a little bit less, oh, I feel like I need to take this. Because I know that's one of the things that they've tried to tackle with, moving to 1D&D, is trying to move away from things that you felt like you've kind of had to take. So I do like that. We'll give this one over to American Jordan. Anything you want to say on, spell casting, or this kind of Song of Rest being replaced by Song of Restoration?
Yeah, I don't know. The change seems, like I said, like it does seem mostly good. I do like that they split the spellcasting up into the 3 new categories. That's kind of handy, and I like that they got rid of the spell known. And so because it just makes it easier for I think when you're picking your spells and knowing how many you've got and all that kind of stuff, it just kind of takes away some of the noise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the bardic, the restoration thing quite yet. I think it's definitely more useful than it used to be. I also like that they moved a lot of their stuff up, so you actually get the class features before level 20. Except for it's weird that they moved the 1 up from 5 to 7, but yeah, no, I think it's mostly good. And like you said, having those spells just sort of automatically frees them up to be a little bit more useful without having to, everyone taking the same spells because you have to. Now you just kind of get them, so you're free to like take something a little bit different. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. And like you said, one of those features that they had pushed back, you mentioned Font of Inspiration moved from 5th to 7th level, but Jack of all trades is another one that's moved from 2nd to 5th level, and it's kind of had a nerf. So if you read the wording on Jack of all trades now, the wording is a bit more precise, and basically what it means is that you can't use Jack of all trades on things like initiative rolls like you could previously, and things like counter spell checks when you've got to make that ability check to see if your counter spell is successful or not. Now, whether Wizards of the Coast intended for Jack of all trades to work like it did in 5th edition is one question, but it looks like they've cleared that up now anyway. And basically it has to involve a skill proficiency that you are lacking, whether that's a skill in itself or a tool proficiency, and therefore can't be used on things like initiative checks or counter spell checks. So I'll give this one to Matt. Anything you want to say on that kind of change of wording on Jack of all trades? Were you someone that kind of still allowed your players to apply Jack of all trades to initiative checks, to counter spell checks, things of that nature, or did you kind of homebrew hard rule on that?
For Jack of all trades,
Yes.
I don't know why they moved it up that many levels, but we'll see. how it plays out, because I think a lot of the things that the bard, the generic bard, lost, like, you know, and the proficiencies, you know, access to things like longsword and rapier and stuff like that. I think they pick those up at 3rd level when they get their subclass. So depending on what college you choose, you know, if you go like what is it, College of Swords or Valor, those would regain those proficiencies as, you know, most likely. But one of the things that I like to do, that I homebrew for Jack of all trades, is a bard, once they get Jack of all trades and can add half their proficiency things, I additionally allow bards to render the aid action, the help action. So whether they are proficient or not, but the bard can't, if they aren't proficient in it, the bard can't be the one to roll, even if they have the better bonus. It has to come from the one who is proficient. So, but they can at least help enough that they would get, you know, grant advantage on the roll, as per the action rule.
Yeah,
so
like
that's just something additionally, and it gives bards something much more utilitarian. And it makes them, you know, it gives them a little boost when it comes to skill checks, because in my games, I use a lot of skill checks. There are a lot of skill checks, including like tools checks and things like that. I use tool checks all the time. Which often surprises my players when I ask for, well, you have the masonry proficiency in masonry tools? You know, like, oh, what? No. And so yeah, I'll use even the weird obscure ones. So allowing that Jack of all trades to assist in something like that, I think just kind of enhances it and makes a bard more desirable to play in general. The spell, the way that they move to spell casting for a bard, I think makes it a bit more crunchy, because now you have preparation to deal with, which might turn off some players who, you know, want to play a spell casting class that doesn't have to do that every day. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because, you know, they get access to more spells and a, you know, greater variety, and the fact that they can swap out cantrips, that's huge. That's pretty boss. And Songs of Restoration, I do have a little bit of a problem with that. It's great that they get things like Healing Word and stuff like that, but being able to enhance another character's ability to utilize their hit dice more effectively during a short rest, I think is a better thing for them, because characters think any kind of dungeon crawl. If you've done a dungeon crawl, long rests are hard to come by in a dungeon, but survivability increases a whole lot more if you have better use of your hit dice for short rests. So I think that was kind of a step back. I mean, it's nice to have access to those spells prepared all the time, but that comes back to the whole, you know, the new spell casting stuff. So now bards, we created your new spell casting rules is you now have to prepare spells daily, and now your Song of Restoration, here's your throwing you a bone, is these ones you don't have to prepare. I kind of like the old Songs of Restoration myself. Other than that, I like what I see.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think it depends what type of bard you're playing. The bard I currently play is a multi-class with a cleric and is focused on, you know, healing and support and that type of thing. And I think getting those 5 spells for free would really go a long way for my character. But if you're not playing that type of bard, like you said before, maybe a swords or a valor bard, those spells aren't going to be as impactful as they would for, you know, a healing bard or more of a support bard. So yes, I definitely hear that. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was just a little minor thing, but Font of Inspiration, like we mentioned, is being moved from 5th to 7th level. But the change that they implemented is, if you give out your inspiration and they roll the dice, so whatever level it is, if they roll a 1, that inspiration now isn't used up and they get to keep it. which is good. So it's like, oh, it's moved back 2 levels, but now you're going to get this extra feature. And I'll finally throw it over to British Jordan. Anything you want to say on that?
Just to interject one thing, I did forget. I do like that they moved Bardic Inspiration to a reaction rather than a bonus action, because I agree with the assessment as people forget that they have those damn dice.
It's very similar to the guidance and resistance spells and how they've changed those as well. Like we talked about in the first episode, those are now reaction spells. I think we all agree that it was better that was the case.
So people could actually use them. Be like, oh shit, after the fact, I have Bardic Inspiration. Damn. You know? Hear that way too often. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, but Jordan, anything on everything we talked about with the Bard so far, or Font of Inspiration specifically?
So, in regards to the spellcasting, I really like this. It seems to be a global change so far towards preparation on a long rest for spells, which just gives characters a lot more variety in their day-to-day kind of builds. Being able to swap out cantrips is absolutely fantastic. The limitation of the schools that the bard can pick from, being divination, enchantment, illusion, and transmutation, I understand it from a class identity kind of viewpoint. It feels good, but it does introduce some limitations in how you can build your bards. I've had bards in the past that have been big hitters, that specialize in those kinds of, in the evocation spells that were on the bard spell list, things like fireball, etc. So it does feel, it feels like it locks down the bard a bit into that kind of role of support, which fair. Same with Songs of Restoration. I do note that it's missing some of the bigger healing spells, like they only get Healing Word. They do not get Cure Wounds anywhere on their spell list now. So it is just that 1d4 plus spellcasting, which is normally better, but sometimes you need that d8 or so. Subclasses we haven't touched yet. Jack of all trades, moving it to 5th level, I think is going to stop a lot of people from multi-classing into Bard just to get access to Jack of all trades. So it does make Jack of all trades feel a lot more fixed for Bards. It's not something you can just splash into anymore. You have to kind of be dedicated to the Bardic class to be able to pull those sorts of things.
That's a great point. Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we did glance over, I don't know if Jack maybe mentioned it, but you can also use your Bardic Inspiration now to give a reactionary heal when a creature within 60 feet of you takes damage, which is also good.
But I think that actually, like British Jordan said, kind of pigeonholes the Bard into really just being a support class. As far as them not getting things like cure wounds and things like that, like the tougher, the higher level spells, I can see why they did that, because the other ones, it's literally a verbal thing. It plays into the whole I'm an entertainer kind of stuff like that. But we also don't know what's coming down the pipeline in regards to the colleges. Colleges themselves might give access to other spells, depending on what it is. So since they have to prepare them, I can see getting a bard that does evocation spells. So I can see that being something they do. So that's the only reason why I'm kind of reserving, like full judgment on the bard, because I have to consider it's like, okay, this is a bard from level 1 to 3, really, because level 3 is going to really redefine what that bard is. So I think maybe that's a good thing, because like having we mentioned earlier with the losing like rapier and longsword and like different martial weapons and things like that, really means that the bardic colleges will make every bard different. So you will have like much varied flavors of bards. So yeah, I'm holding out to see what they come out with for colleges.
Yeah.
To that point, though, Songs of Restoration feels more like a subclass feature, since it does kind of
Agreed.
pigeonhole you.
Agreed.
Where Song of Rest, because now the bards can heal during combat and stuff with all their healing spells, but they're using up their spell slots, which you're usually out of by the time you go to a short rest anyway. So that's where Song of Rest was really powerful.
Yeah.
And didn't really make the bard into a cleric substitute, whereas a subclass I could see making more of a healer pigeonholing. So
agreed.
One thing I would say about Song of Rest is that so it allowed characters to regain a small number of hit points over a short rest when they spent hit dice. But there's also been some changes to the way long rests work now, where instead of giving half your hit dice back, it gives you all your hit dice back, which therefore means on short rests, it's easier to spend more hit dice because you'll know that you'll get them back on the next long rest, rather than you might worry that you won't be able to top up the tank afterwards. So I think Song of Rest, whilst a useful feature, has been somewhat outmoded by the changes to a long rest that allows you to spend hit dice more freely.
That's a great point.
I do kind of like, though, that you didn't get, again, this is coming from the standpoint of running like a dungeon crawl. Not getting all your hit points back, all your hit dice back on a long rest, was kind of, it played into, okay, you need to manage your resources, which then also made having a bard in the group even that much more useful. So yeah, I dungeon crawls are literally resource management. You need to play things smart, and I still kind of like the old way that they did it, that you didn't get all your hit dice back on a long rest, and having the bard being able to at least maximize their use to a degree, So I don't know. I'm still leaning the old way for that. But that's just me, and I'm old, as we have established.
One thing I would like to see going forward for the bard actually is for them to get like a decent offensive cantrip, because at the moment the only one they've got that does damage is Vicious Mockery, which is a good debuff, but in terms of its damage it's pretty limited, and even the debuff becomes more limited over time as enemies start getting multi-attack more commonly. So I would like them to see them get a decent, like, sort of D8, maybe even D10 damage cantrip, depending on how the cantrip is structured. Just because every bard I've DM'd for that reached tier 2 either multi-classed into sorcerer or warlock to pick up a cantrip, or like took magic initiate to pick up a cantrip, or on one occasion was a lore bard who used one of their magical secrets to pick up a cantrip. Not necessarily the most efficient use of resources, but I think it tests to the point of without a decent truly offensive cantrip, the way the sorcerers and the warlocks have, and not even with their weapons now. I would like to see a bit more of something to spend your action on than just spamming Vicious Mockery, which is diminishing returns.
That's a good point. I don't know off the top of my head, but was one of the first class features that all characters get now was one of those not a magic initiate, so they could get it through that. Yeah,
they can just take the magic initiate feat and pick it up, but it's something I'd like to see more of from the class.
I get it. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do want to refrain from talking about the subclasses just to make sure we go through all 4 classes today. If we do have time, we can dive into some of the subclasses. So, yeah, try and refrain from talking about subclasses if we can. But has anyone got any final things you want to say on the bard before we move on to the next one?
I got nothing. Bards are cool. You know, between 3.5 and 4th and up, they made bards way better. So, you know, making them more way better, I'm all for it.
All right. So I'm going to talk again for a while here, so bear with me. But next up, we have my heart and soul class, the first class I ever played, and arguably, or in my opinion, the worst class in 5th edition. But looking at the Ranger in 1D&D, it looks a whole lot better. But that's what we're going to be talking about next, the Ranger. So, like the Bard, it also belongs to the Expert class group. The Ranger, however, has 2 primary abilities. The first of which is its Dexterity, and the second is Wisdom. Like the Bard as well, all of its hit dice features, proficiencies, and armor are all the same from 5th edition to 1D&D. And the example starting equipment that it gives you in the 1D&D PHB are 20 arrows, an explorer's pack, a longbow, a quiver, a scimitar, a short sword, studded leather armor, and 8 gold pieces. Or you can forego all of that and take 150 gold pieces to spend on equipment of your choosing. I think the thing to note here is that is a 50 gold piece increase in comparison to what the Bard gets, and that's maybe something that we can talk about later on once we've seen all 4 classes, because you will see that number differ. And yes, to go on to the changelog things again for the Ranger. Jack's put a nice stipulation here. So this isn't comparing the 5th edition PHB Ranger with the 1D&D PHB Ranger. It's more the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything Ranger compared to the 1D&D Ranger, which I'm sure we can all agree. Tasha's Ranger was a much needed buff to the Ranger. But yes, to run through those some of those changelog changes. Like the Bard, there are various spellcasting changes. The Canny feature now gives you 2 expertise, but no additional languages. Favored enemy has changed to Hunter's Mark. They have lost the dueling fighting style. Oh, sorry, yeah, the dueling. I think it's dueling. Jack wrote duelist, but I might be wrong. But they gain access to all the fighting style feats that are elsewhere in the UA documents. And basically, those feats are only available to the warrior classes. However, there's a stipulation in the Ranger class that says they still get access to them. They've removed Primeval Awareness. Roving gives you an additional 10 feet of movement rather than 5 feet of movement, but has an armor restriction. They've removed the Land Stride feature. They have gained additional expertise, removed Hide in Plain Sight, gained Nature's Veil, lost the Vanish feature. Foe Slayer is now bound to Hunter's Mark, and like you'll see with all these classes, it has also gained a Epic Boon feature at level 20. Additionally, the following features have been removed. So again, this is something that's going to be standardized across the board, but subclass levels have been moved from 3, 7, 11, and 15 to 3, 6, 10, and 14. Roving has been pushed back from 6th to 7th level. Tireless has been pushed back from 10th to 11th level. Feral Sense has been brought forward from 18th to 15th level. And Foe Slayer, which was the previous 20th level feature, has now been brought forward to 18th level. So there's a lot to unpack here. But what I'd like to kind of fixate on first, if that's okay with you guys, is giving the Ranger expertise. Because like in 5th edition, the Bard and the Rogue both got expertise, but the Ranger didn't. Now the Ranger is being categorized with these other 2 classes as part of the Expert classes group. And so they do now get expertise. 2 at level 1, and again at 9th level. So for lots of expertise overall. We'll do the opposite. We'll go around the opposite way this time. So we'll start with you, Matt. How do you feel about rangers now getting expertise?
Rangers getting expertise is good, especially if you're playing in any of my games, because skill challenges happen a lot in and out of combat. So I utilize that to a great deal, just so that players know, there is no dump stat in my games. There are no dump skills. They're all going to come into play at some point in time, and woe be to the party that, everyone decides that this skill is useless, because it will come up at some point in time in a way that it matters to what you're trying to do, and oftentimes in, real tangible ways. Having expertise just expands the usefulness of a ranger outside of combat. The original ranger really had kind of like limited skills. I think they treated it more like the fighter, like a closer to the fighter than like a rogue or bard. And I like that it shifts a little bit so that at least they can specialize in specific skills. Because let's face it, everyone goes into playing like a ranger thinking I'm going to be like Legolas, and you end up just being like Lego lame. So it's just you have this image of how you want the class to be, and it just really fell short. The fact that they made a lot of things, either they took out the fact that you had to concentrate on it, or like the fact that the ranger lost the need to have concentration on things, a lot of things, that was huge.
That's something we're going to touch on, but
so like the ranger, you just want me to expound on the expertise?
Yes, please.
All right, Vicar. Then that's my thoughts on expertise on rangers. Take it away.
No, just to kind of piggyback off that, the ranger, like the bard and the rogue, they've really got to stand out and shine in their own spotlight. And I feel like you could play a melee focused bard, in 5th edition, but it would kind of get outshined by other martial classes. And you could really focus on your spellcasting as a bard, but the wizard was always going to outshine it and things like that. And that's kind of the problem that they've got with these classes. That's why they're all grouped together. And I think some of the features that we'll talk about now really put ranger into its own field and kind of give that spotlight that it deserves. So yeah, the next thing is favored enemy, which is what Matt kind of just touched on now. So basically what this is now, because it's changed from how it worked in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, this is a always prepared hunter's mark that doesn't use your concentration. And that is just double chef's kiss. And I feel like I was going to go in reverse order, but I feel like this is a perfect one to give to Jack, because I feel like Jack's going to break down some numbers for me on this. So Jack, can you kind of talk about what the ramifications are for giving the ranger this kind of always on 1d6 that bumps to a is it a 1d10?
Yeah,
Yes.
It goes up to 1d10.
Yes. What are your thoughts on that, please, Jack?
So one of the big changes as a result of that is it means that you're probably going to see more rangers using short swords rather than necessarily a bow, or I never really saw any duelist rangers with a rapier and a shield, but you could have seen one. because when you use short swords or scimitars or what have you, you can make more attacks and are therefore more likely to get this Hunter's Mark damage, because Hunter's Mark is every attack. Whereas the Tasha's version, where it was just the D4 on the first attack you made of your turn, didn't encourage this multi-attacking. So I think that'll be the main change you'll see from the Hunter's Mark change. You'll start to see more dual wielding rangers, which I think is fine. We haven't seen a lot of dual wielding characters for a while, or at least not especially effective ones. So it'd be interesting to see what we get as a result.
Yeah, because that kind of ties in with the changes that they made to two-weapon fighting, right?
Yeah, it doesn't eat your bonus action anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to kind of recap that means you can, if you're two-weapon fighting and you've got extra attack, you can attack 3 times without expending your bonus action.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Well,
Okay.
twice and then a third time at 5th level.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Have we got any information on the hex spell? Is there been any information on that? Because I'm just thinking now, you've just freed up your concentration. You could also concentrate on hex and have Hunter's Mark up on the same time, just to.
Yeah. So hex is on the arcane spell list. So the bard gets hex. But the the ranger could do that, but they'd have to multi-class. And the ranger's always at a thing where, because it needs dexterity and wisdom, not just to multi-class into the class, but to multi-class out. You need a character with 13 dex, 13 wisdom, and then either 13 intelligence or 13 charisma, because the arcane classes, let's face it, are going to either be the intelligent wizard, the charismatic bard, or the probably also charismatic warlock.
Yeah, and then you kind of
sorcerer too.
Yeah, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot as well if you do invest in intelligence or charisma to get that, because you are gonna want to concentrate on obviously your dexterity and wisdom, but then everyone needs constitution, especially if you're playing like a melee ranger. So yeah, that's why I wanted to ask
especially if you want to concentrate on that hex.
Right, yeah. So that's why I asked you that question, because I knew we could like pick the bones out of it a little bit. So thank you for that. That's some good insight there. And yeah, we'll move on to spell casting now. So I think we'll see this change through all the half casters in one D&D. But rangers now get their spell casting at first level. Like the bards, rangers now prepare their spells, where previously they kind of learned new ones. They get their spells from the primal spell list, and they can choose any of those spells, minus the ones that fall under the evocation school of magic. Like the bard, they have spell slots equal to the number of spells they prepared. Again, that's probably a consistent thing that they're going to have through all 12 classes. And again, another consistent thing, you can now change out your cantrips on a long rest. So I'll give this one to British Jordan. To me, these spell changes seem good. You don't have to wait to 3rd level anymore. Cantrips, you can change your cantrips out on a long rest. How are we feeling about ranger spell casting?
Absolutely fantastic. It's really helping that kind of class identity. That seems to be like a core theme in these designs of strengthening the strengths of each class, and in some cases deepening their weaknesses. Not with the ranger though. All strengths here. I genuinely really like it. The only thing with the Hunter's Mark, I think they have limited spell slots anyway, being a half caster. I think I would have liked it more if they just got it for 3. If it became a class feature not accessible by other classes. rather than being a separate spell. And just being able to pop it when they want it, essentially.
I know what you're saying. They do get to prepare it for free, and I think I'm right in saying that it doesn't count against the number of spells that they can prepare. But you're right in saying that other classes still could get it.
Yeah.
Because I think what we've seen in 5th edition was there was a lot of subclasses. I played one specifically. The Oath of Vengeance Paladin gets access to Hunter's Mark, and we can probably see similar type of access to that spell because it's a part of the primal spell list. So like druids get it now as well. So, yes. I don't know if anyone. This is kind of on the spot. I don't know if anyone knows this, but does anyone have a list of evocation spells that are on the primal spell list that it would lose out on? Have you got that, Jack, or not?
No. I mean, looking through it, there's Produce Flame, which is what they lose for cantrips, but I'm not sure they ever had that one anyway. So no, I didn't go through that one to see what they lost compared to whatever they had.
Yeah, I can look. I already have D&D Beyond open. You can see their spell lists. Let's see if I can
Don't lose a lot. And it just surface level glance, it's very much. I can't think of any time I've seen a ranger with these spells that wasn't multiclassed.
So what Jack said, Produce Flame at level at level 0. There's no more. We've kept calling them cantrips throughout this, but they're all level 0 spells now. Cantrips. At level 1, you've got Fairy Fire. Won't be able to cast that. That is a really good spell. So that is a nerf.
Cure Wounds.
I would argue Fairy Fire is one of the
Cure
best
Wounds
spells.
got changed, I think, to Abjuration.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say, I thought they were changing it, but from the original spell list they lose
Yeah, no, I've got the
Cure Wounds.
I've got the primal spells in front of me. So yeah, it's Fairy Fire, which does suck a little bit. Then you've got Evocation. You got Flame Blade at 2nd level, and you got Flaming Sphere at 2nd level.
This is funny. They lose Conjure Barrage because the hunter then gets that added back to much aplomb and fanfare.
Oh, is that how that works? Yeah, you've got Gust of Wind at 2nd level. You've got Moonbeam at 2nd level. Daylight at 2nd level. Wind Wall at 3rd level. Ice Storm at 4th level. Wall of Fire at 5th level. Wall of Stone at 5th level. Sunbeam at 6th level. Wall of Ice at 6th level.
Although they don't get the 6th level spell slots there.
That's true. Yep. So that's it.
So they only go up to 5th now?
They always did.
Okay.
Yes, because half-casters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So there's a couple of sucky ones in there. I think read them out. They do kind of make sense why they don't get it.
But then now they get spells at 1st level, so
yes.
that makes them an actual half caster.
And access to the full druid list.
Yeah.
Because I think Entangle was something that they got added on through Tasha's, and no, they've lost Entangle because it's Conjuration. Oh dear. Oh, it's a shame. Entangle was good. Oh no, they get Conjuration, don't they? Yeah.
I was gonna say that doesn't make sense that they would lose something like that. Isn't it literally like vines and shit just growing up and entangling you?
Yeah, it's just the
that's right. Yeah, so it's the Evocation ones they've lost. They keep the Conjuration ones, so it's so it's Entangle. They still got Entangle. Oh, they do get
Anyway, two smaller ones. I'll do both of these, and I'll let you and then I'll let you get your teeth into them. American Jordan, as always. That's just never gonna feel right saying that. But the first one is a little change to Nature's Veil. You now have to expend a spell slot to use this instead of using it proficiency bonus times prolonged rest. If you just to recap what this does, as a bonus action, you can expend a spell slot and become invisible until the end of your next turn. I don't know how I feel about that, but I can let Jordan give his 2 cents. And then the other one is Feral Senses. which now gives you blind sight out to 30 feet, but you have lost the ability to attack anything you can't see without a disadvantage. That was the that was how that was originally worded. So yeah, I don't know how I feel personally about those two features. But yes, American Jordan, you can give you 2 cents on those two.
Sounds like a clothing brand.
American American Jordan.
America. Yeah. I don't like the flavor text they put on Nature's Veil. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, you invoke spirits of nature to magically hide yourself. I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, what are they standing in front of me? Like, I don't know. But
Predator.
Predator style.
And you have
Sure,
to make that
but
noise when you do it.
like rogues have to say sneak sneak whenever they're hiding.
Yes.
The fact that it takes a spell slot, I don't know. Like, spells are important and spell slots are important, so I don't know. It seems, but just give them this. I don't know. They get this spell They basically just get this spell invisibility for free, and then
For like 6 seconds.
yeah, at least 6 seconds. It's a bonus action. So I don't really like that. I think if Nature's Veil was more of like, I think what it was before was it was just like a stealth thing, right? Like you could just kind of like hide in plain sight or whatever, like vanish.
Right. So just to touch on that, I'll read that out. So in the original PHB, it was hide in plain sight. So it says you can spend a minute creating camouflage for yourself. You have to have access to fresh mud, dirt, plants, soot, and other naturally occurring materials with which to create your camouflage. Once you are camouflaged in this way, you can try to hide by pressing yourself up against a solid surface, such as a tree or wall, that is at least as tall and as wide as you are. You get a +10 bonus to dexterity stealth checks as long as you remain there without moving or taking actions. Once you move or take an action or a reaction, you must camouflage yourself again. You must camouflage yourself again to gain this benefit. And then that was replaced by Nature's Veil in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which works similar to this one I've just read out, but instead of doing proficiency bonus times per long rest, you now have to burn a spell slot. I'll let you jump back into that.
Yeah, the first one, that was garbage. The 10-minute thing. That's stupid.
The visuals that go along with that, though, picturing a character doing that.
Just, I mean, if you're
like,
really big on ambushes, I guess it could be useful. But yeah, I definitely think turning it into just invisibility was a good move. I don't think I like it being a spell slot, but I haven't really dealt with rangers too terribly much, so I think I like the Tasha's version better personally. But and then yeah, I'm not sure I've got strong opinions on feral senses. Let's see. Versus what was it used to? When you attack a creature you can't see, your inability to see it doesn't impose disadvantage on your attack rolls.
They're almost the same feature.
Yeah, you're also aware of the location of any invisible creatures within 30 feet of you, provided the creature isn't hidden from you and you aren't blinded or deafened.
The first part of the original one didn't limit you to a range, though. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, 30 feet. I think having blind sight. There's got to be other ways to get blind sight before level. I mean, that's a pretty high level thing just to get blind sight for 30 feet. Like a 15th level class feature. Because I'm pretty sure there's other ways to get blind sight.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That seems pretty weak.
Yeah, there's like the fighting style, even though if they keep it the same, that'll only give you 10 feet of blind sight. But yeah, I agree. Like, Wizards of the Coast have a habit of giving you like high level features and they just being so lackluster and like just underpowered for that level. That's kind of
what is it? Is it uncommon magic item? Was it Ears of the Bat or whatever? Doesn't that basically give you blind sight?
Yes, I believe so.
And it's
flavored to be something like echolocation.
Yeah, so it's like that's an uncommon magic item which you can buy for like 600, max 600 gold.
Yeah,
early
I
on.
could see getting like feral senses. I could see being something at a lower level, and then something else to replace this at 15th level. But I also have a love-hate relationship with the fact that you get the more powerful stuff at higher levels versus at lower levels, because of the fact that most people will never reach 15th level in a campaign, so you're never going to get that anyway. But yeah, I don't know. That seems weak for 15th though.
I agree.
But
Jack, you want to say anything on that, Jack?
I mean, I was just noting that the feature's not all that different to the PHB one. The ability to see invisible enemies at 30 feet in the PHB is just clarified with blind sight, which lets you perceive invisible enemies. It is true what you were saying, that the disadvantage against shooting against targets you can't see was effectively unlimited in the PHB, like if you were firing into a darkness.
Yes.
Whereas it is limited to 30 feet here, but otherwise they're pretty similar. That said, I did think the PHB version was a bit underwhelming. I mean, blind sight is something that the a fight could get with a 10-foot range at first level through Tasha's, or there's like the Skulker feat in 1 D&D that'll give you blind scent at 4th level if you take that feat. Having a 30-foot radius of it is nice, but
it does help your long range builds with that 30-foot radius.
Yeah,
sure.
I kind of feel what that feature needs is that and
Something.
Right. Give me something else. Yeah. I think going back to the original one, the hide in plain sight, it's very Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first Predator film where he covers himself in mud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just pictured like this
Oh.
dude with like a tree in front of him. He's like kind of like moving, like morning rituals to
my
gather some
brain-
weeds and mud.
Hiding in cardboard boxes.
Full Solid Snake. Every time I read it, my brain just flashed to Peter from the Hunger Games.
Oh,
How he paints himself.
That's a good one. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there that we kind of need to give us something else there. WotC.
I just think they never really figured out what a ranger's supposed to be like. Everyone kind of has like an image of what a ranger's supposed to be, but they've always just sort of felt like a multi-class built as a class. Like they're always like they're druids and rogues, and they just sort of munged them together and made them shittier than both of those. And so I don't know. It seems that they're getting closer to figuring out what a ranger is supposed to be and how to make it its own thing. But rangers are also they're sort of woodsy and earthy, and they don't really feel arcane. Like so, it's hard to put them in a high magic thing because it almost feels like ranger would be more of a gritty, low magic type class, which is where that PHP version of hide in plain sight kind of sounds like they were going with, right? And like, how do you explain invisibility without having magic? And now they're trying to bring them back into being spellcasting, and then how does that work? I don't know, but. Or do you think they're getting closer to making the ranger into something playable?
Regarding the use of a spell slot, I think on that, I can see why they did that. Like first and foremost, the original, even the Tasha's version of a ranger, how much did a ranger honestly rely on spell casting to do anything? Because most of the ranger spells required concentration. Right. So in this new version, not only do they have less reliance on anything that needs concentration, they also get more spell slots and starting at first level. So I can see
it could have been a balance
okay, you know. So, but having invisibility for one turn, that's like that's weak sauce.
If it was like a reaction or something, I don't know. That doesn't make sense, but
like I could see it as like they can remain invisible as long as they also remain still.
Yeah,
not something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question.
Oh, go on.
Feral Sense is just giving blind sight. Is it too powerful to give them a variation of true sight instead?
At 15?
Yeah.
Well, the True Sight spell is a 6th level spell, I believe, which means that can be prepared at 11th level.
And they can't get 6th level spells, so it'd be the only way for them to get True Sight, right?
Yeah, but what I mean is, at least at 15th level, True Sight is a thing that is
Right.
in the game for players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can
it
see
was-
True Sight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, again, you're in end game levels at 15, so you know the
Right.
things you're dealing with are on a different scale level at that point, just to challenge players. So I don't think True Sight is outside of the realm of. I don't think it's broken.
I don't think that's going to break anything at that level. Does True Sight let you see through? I'm trying to remember because the wording of True Sight always kind of threw me off a little bit because
No, you
so
you if someone was behind a pillar and like you are like looking directly at them, you wouldn't be able to see them behind the pillar.
Right.
You can you can see in darkness and magical darkness. You can see creatures that have like shape changed.
Illusions.
Yeah, so if you had a
illusion.
dragon pretending to be a person, a 15th level ranger could be like,
Not
you look scaly.
exactly. Yeah, you're sus. I'm sorry. And you can also
I
trip
know-
balls by always seeing into the ethereal plane.
Ethereal, that's the other
This
thing.
is like the
Oh, yeah.
overlay. You have augmented reality going on.
Yeah.
There's
So
ghosts, dead people everywhere.
no, because I always used to think it gave you X-ray vision, but no, you don't get X-ray vision with it.
Mm-mm.
You get everything but that. But yeah.
Yeah.
So it could tie in thematically in that they sense the true nature of things.
Yeah. And if they're gonna be more magical as a I think True Sight, I think that would be I'd probably just homebrew that because I think that's a much better feature.
Yep.
The last thing I want to talk about for Ranger is the Foe Slayer, which, like I said, got moved from 20th to 18th level. Works completely differently to how it used to, mainly because of all these other class changes. Now, all it simply does is it makes your Hunter's Mark damage do an extra 1d10 rather than 1d6. And I feel like this really goes back to the theme of this Ranger. And it's like, this seems too underpowered for an 18th level ability because you're going from a d6 to a d10, 2 extra damage on average, and your ceiling for that damage only increases by 4. And at 18th level, that is so negligible. I know you can do it probably like at least minimum 3 times a turn at this point, but then with that, it's still only 6 on average and a ceiling of 12 extra damage, which again is very negligible at level 18th as at 18th level. I'm going to give this one to Jack as well because it's a numbers one and Jack likes numbers. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. So if you're making 2 attacks and we can effectively ignore accuracy for this. That it's it's an extra 4 potential damage. Then if you got a 3rd attack from somewhere, which there's a good chance you will have at this point, then it would be 6. The thing is, the original feature was you could add your wisdom modifier to the damage roll. Your wisdom modifier probably was +4 at that point, maybe even +5. So Foe Slayer, a feature that was ridiculed in the PHB for being utterly insufficient, is still utterly insufficient. Also, the PHB one, you could put it to the attack roll as well. You could add your wisdom modifier to the attack roll, which, if you were taking like sharpshooter, was nice. The matter a bit iffy on whether you should be increasing attack bonuses, which is better, attack bonuses or damage bonus. The answer is it depends. But certainly it was a more flexible feature in the PHB, and since it was about as powerful and was still panned, I feel it's just not that great. I mean, you could increase it to a D12, and I would be thinking, So no, I wasn't too impressed with that.
Yeah, we need something else there again.
It feels like Hunter's Mark to the Ranger class is a lot like Sneak Attack to a Rogue. And so it does feel where Hunter's Mark should be something that they can only get, but then it should also balance out against Sneak Attack, and I just don't think it does.
No, because you're getting a D10 there from Hunter's Mark at 18, and then at Rogue 18, I think you're doing what, like 66 sneak attack?
Yeah.
At level
I don't
18,
know.
it would be 9d6. I think.
9d6. Oh, there you go. So-
We
Because
don't know if Hunter's
they
Mark.
get every other level, like spell slot things.
Yeah.
Uh,
We don't know if Hunter's Mark will be the same in 1D&D as it is in its current iteration. They may change it so that when cast at higher levels, as well as increasing duration, it may add extra dice.
That's a good. That's a good point.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen any changes as to what that is, just that when they get it and, you know, things like that. So that is true.
mhm.
So if every level above first you cast it, you get to add an extra dice, or if they keep the same scaling, which is third and fifth are where they get their upgrades, and you get an extra dice at third and fifth level. Still not on par with sneak attack, but feels a bit better.
Mhm.
You,
I
you
would
gotta
just say
remember-
it shouldn't be exactly on par with sneak attack, because rogues don't get extra attack and rangers do, and rangers
That's
are
what I was about to
applying
say.
it on all their attacks, and rogues can only ever do it on one, even if they do get
Yeah.
extra attack.
And we're not on the rogue yet, but
Mhm.
there are some serious nerfs to the rogue that we'll talk about that touch on sneak
Good.
attack. So
How dare they?
yeah, I heard this I heard this a lot when you know, in the year's 5th edition was out, but people would say that the hunter subclass features should be integrated into the main ranger class, and that's how they should improve it. I don't know if that would be overkill at this point, because kind of the front end of the ranger has definitely improved, but I think we can all agree that the back end, the tier 3, tier 4 ranger,
Yeah.
it's still a bit lackluster.
Hmm.
Any final comments on the ranger?
I feel like they should also just get a pet. But that's
Well, they get what? The Beastmaster is
oh, that's
is
right. That was
is
a
a
subclass.
rage,
We can
yeah.
get that,
So
yeah.
they
Mhm.
do.
Yeah. I feel like there was some of those. There was mechanics specifically for ranger subclasses. I'm like, these should just be general mechanics for anybody, like raising and training a thing and stuff like that. I don't know, but then there's
Yeah.
Drake Warden. I don't know.
Like, and I said this at the start of the ranger, but I think the ranger was the worst class for me, and it was the first class I played, and the first subclass I played was also the original PHB Beastmaster, which would have a nice fight with the Purple Dragon Knight for worst subclass in the game. So but I remember playing that, and like, it was my first time ever playing D&D, and I was like, it was like Matt said, you kind of have the Legolas effect going in, like, I'm gonna be a fucking badass. You're like 3 or 4 sessions in, and like, I fucking suck. And it doesn't get any better. So
Until you nuke a Myconid village, you monster.
yes, but but that was because of a necklace of fireballs and not really any of the class features. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I am praying more than anyone that, you know, Ranger gets the buffs it deserves, because I want to play Ranger again, and I want to, you know, do it justice from a roleplay point of view, but also, you know, from a mechanical standpoint as well. I don't want to feel like I'm a wet flannel just on the battlefield. And there's some good things in here. There are some really good things, but like we said, the back end, the tier 3, tier 4 stuff, I still think needs improving.
Did they?
And like Jordan,
No, go ahead.
go on. No, I was going to say, like Jordan said, you can always implement your own homebrew, but at the end of the day, you know, you really shouldn't.
Yeah, we
really
shouldn't have
be
to.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they still have the different movements, right? They get a climb speed, swim speed, and as
Yes,
well.
you still got all that.
Because
Yes.
that in Xanathar's, that really was it Xanathar's or Tasha's?
Tasha's.
In Tasha's, that was a game changer for the previous version. Like the fact that I could literally, you know, I was playing in a game just to test the, you know, efficacy of a ranger, and I was fighting things in, you know, a wooded area, and I was literally running from tree to tree, hiding, shooting, tree to tree, you know, just run up, and, you know, tree to tree. And it really, utilizing terrain, you know, having those movement speeds, that's actually really big, you know. And if you play the terrain right, you know, having a swim speed means that you aren't limited to weapons when you're fighting in water, you know. And I mean, that stuff was actually pretty huge. That was a very positive and well-deserved change. You were definitely more like Legolas at that point, running up the Oliphant to kill everyone on the top.
Right. Right. And just to touch on them three features, to recap them, you've got canny, roving, and tireless. Canny is your expertise. Roving is your increase walking speed by 10 feet, and then you gain your climbing and swimming speed equal to those speeds. So they're really good. And then your tireless, I actually really like this about tireless. It changed slightly from the Tasha's tireless. I've just lost it. Yeah. So so you get temporary hit points whenever you finish a short or a long rest. You can give yourself a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your proficiency bonus. But then you also get decreased exhaustion. So if you are exhausted when you finish a short rest, your level of exhaustion decreases by 1. So that's normally a thing that you can only do through a long rest. So being able to do that on a short rest is actually pretty good. Albeit exhaustion did take some nerfs, so that's probably why they thought it was okay to balance that by doing that. But yeah, go on.
It feels like it moves it more from Legolas territory into Aragorn territory in the keep marching forward after catching your breath kind of way.
I don't know. Legolas never got tired, and that asshole could walk on the top
True.
of snow. So,
this is true.
Like, he just never got tired. The only difference is Aragorn seemingly had to worry about getting tired. Legolas was like, yeah, I'm fine.
Aragorn was a ranger that was human. Legolas, I think those were all like racial features.
Yeah. A lot of racial features there for the elves. Let's just put that out there.
Little bit overpowered.
He could trance while he ran.
Yeah. I'm just picturing that. He's just like this, feet going.
We have 15 minutes until our scheduled break. We've got two options, Matt. I'll leave this down to you. We can either take the break now, or we can use those 15 minutes just to talk about some of the ranger subclass stuff.
Well, did they actually release the subclass stuff?
Yeah,
just the hunt.
There's a hunter one. Yeah, so we can.
Let's talk the hunter. That should take only about 15 minutes. Let's talk about the hunter.
Okay, so like all your subclasses, or it was the same for the 5th edition ranger. You would get your subclass at 3rd level. You get your subclass at 3rd level in 1D&D, and your first subclass feature, if you pick the hunter, is Hunter's Prey. So basically, whenever you hit a creature with a weapon or an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn, the weapon or unarmed strike deals an extra 1d8 damage to the target if it's missing any of its hit points. And you can only deal this damage, this extra damage, only once per turn. So just going to read that again. Okay, so it does say on your turn, so it does nerf it a little bit because you can't do that on a reaction or a well, I guess held action is a reaction as well, but you know what I mean. But that's a nice little damage increase, because that's what we were talking about with the Hunter's Mark stuff. So you would get a bit more damage there. 6th level, you get Hunter's Law. So while a creature is marked by your Hunter's Mark, you know whether that creature has any immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities, and if the creature has any, you know what they are. That's pretty good. That also works similar to if you're a Critical Role fan and you know Way of the Cobalt Soul. That works similar to how Extract Aspects works. And I know through watching Campaign 2 of Critical Role that was a clutch thing that Beauregard always did. So that seems pretty nice, actually. And it's not one of them things that you're getting too late on that's like, this is underpowered again. I think 6th level is nice for that. 10th level, you get multi-attack. So you now always have Conjure Barrage prepared, like Jack mentioned before. You wouldn't normally get access to that, but you do through this feature. And again, it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. I like that. You can also cast the spell with first and second level spell slots. When you do so, the spell's damage is reduced by 1d8 for each slot below third level. I actually kind of like that as well. Makes it a bit more versatile, a bit more flexible when you can and can't use it. And then at 14th level, you get Superior Hunter's Defense. So when you are hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to half the attack's damage against yourself, and you can redirect the other half of the damage to one creature other than the attacker that you can see within 5 feet of yourself. So that at face value sounds a bit like Uncanny Dodge, which rogues get at 5th level. So like, 5th level, 14th level, there's a bit of disparity there, but you can redirect it. But you can also do that with like your monk.
Yeah, it's like a combination of Tipsy Sway and
Yeah.
Uncanny Dodge.
Yes. So that feels like a bit lackluster for a 14th level again, but it might save your ass every once in a while, and you also make a collateral kill with it. So, so that's all the features for the hunter. And I don't know off the top of my head, kind of how they compare. If anyone has those comparisons, that would be great, and you can take the floor.
The third level one is roughly equivalent to the Colossus Slayer that was already on the Hunters. It was usually considered to be like the second best of the three, but still a good feature. And the last one is like an improved version of the Uncanny Dodge that the Hunter could get at 40, with its 15th level subclass feature. And yeah, so it looks like it looks like a bit of a mix of Uncanny Dodge and Stand Against the Tide.
Mm-hmm.
What's
So
Stand Against the Tide? Which one is that?
So on the Ranger, the PHB Ranger, Superior Hunter's Defense, it says you get one of the following features of your choice: an Uncanny Dodge and Stand Against the Tide are two there. Oh no, sorry. Stand Against the Tigers. Repeat the attack. It's not redirect. Is repeat the attack against another creature. It's not redirecting damage.
It's a bit like Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Without you don't get a Wisdom save though.
So I think the third one's like the one at third level is slightly worse, and the one at 14th/5th level is somewhat better, and the other two are different. I'd have to say one of the things about Hunter's Law is it's great knowing the the resistances, immunities, and vulnerabilities. But the Ranger hasn't always had the easiest time of converting damage types. It's not like the Paladin, which has a lot of smites it can use to do different damage types. Or of course, like a full caster. The Druid is a number of like elemental based spells, and could use this information to do. To choose whether it's going to do fire, cold, or magical piercing damage or something. It's a nice feature to have, but it's one that the Ranger uses and then tells its friends about, and it's the friends who actually act on the information. Like it's a good team player ability, but it doesn't quite have the same opportunity to capitalize on them. And the PHB Hunters multi-attacks were great. They were great. And Conjure Barrage is a thing that exists.
I actually like it, honestly. Hunter's Lore. I actually like the fact that they can. Yeah, it is a cooperative thing, but then again, D&D is, you don't want the hunter to be the solo. And again, I'm a very tactical player. If you get an opportunity to ambush something, and you prepare ahead of time, and the hunter's just like sneaking up and be like, okay, I know what that is, and I also know how to kill it, and you tell your party and everyone prepares it, you're gonna punk beat whatever it is within like 2 rounds. If you're like going into an attack that prepared and you get surprise, that's I think that's kind of huge. I mean, is the hunter going to be able to use it for his sole benefit a lot? No, but I don't think that was its intent. But I still think it's a very useful ability.
Well, when they hit 9th
would
level,
kinda
they
make
get
sense.
elemental weapon.
Yeah, it would kind of make sense for the hunter to be able to have some kind of feature where they can pick what their damage type is going to be, either through preparation because they knew what they were hunting, but I guess that would also just be buying equipment. But if a magical hunter, I guess, would be something like Green Arrow or Hawkeye or something like that, where they've got the quiver of whatever arrow for whatever situation.
Yeah. Yep.
I know it's a different subclass. That's the Arcane Archer. I'm not
That's
getting
fair.
that yet.
But
It is
not a bad homebrew magic item to make, where
Awesome.
you can choose a damage type for an arrow that you draw from that quiver.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
like. I feel like that would be like very rare, at least, though.
But still very useful.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
If you put, you could weaken it by giving it charges and saying it enchants 10 pieces of ammunition per charge.
Yeah.
And then you can have it be a lower level item, but
Or just
I could see
have
limiting
it
it.
charge like in general. So every time you use it, draw an arrow, you use a charge. Instead of it just
Yeah.
enchanting 10. You'd be like, oh, okay.
I could see limiting it to the elements too. Like it'd be weird to do psychic damage with an arrow, but
It screams as you shoot it.
it's just got an Aztec death whistle attached to the end.
That would be amazing.
I would love that. But still, on the Hunter's Law stuff, again, it's Hunter's Mark being referred to in a subclass feature makes it feel more like it should just be a subclass, like a class feature rather than it being a spell.
Right.
Yeah,
In the
I agree.
way that they talk about it.
Well, that's
It-
what they did with the Tasha's iteration of it. It was just a class.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you still had Hunter's Mark, but the favored enemy thing was a class feature. But yeah, I agree. But like going back to the critical role thing again, like I remember Beauregard using like extract aspects, which basically is the same thing. And her telling the rest of the party, and it just came in clutch. It was so clutch time and time again because you had the wizard, who could take advantage of it just through their like vast spell list and knowing whether you can't stun something, whether you can't knock something prone.
No
Yeah, I think that's
wasted
really good.
actions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. I actually
Oh,
like Hunter's Lore.
it says any immunities. It doesn't specify whether it's damage or condition. I presume it's both.
Yeah.
But it would
Yes.
be nice if they said.
Yep. Any immunities, I would rule that as any and all immunities, no matter what they
Mhm.
are.
Absolutely. Red is written. I don't know what the red is intended is, but red is written. That says
Mhm.
if they're immune to poison, you get to know it.
So yeah, I agree. It's kind of like how I read like when you're stunned and you know it says you cannot take actions or move or any of that stuff. That
Mhm.
counts to bonus actions too, which is an action. So
And legendary actions.
yes, anything that has action in it is all encompassing. You can't take those.
Kind of interesting that in the old Hunter's Prey, you had choices. You could take Colossal Slayer, Giant Killer, or Horde Breaker, and then you had defensive tactics, Escape, Horde, Whereas this one, they just now we just made those choices for you now.
Mhm.
That's a little bit. I like choices, but since they're
Yeah.
trying to streamline stuff, I guess that makes sense.
Mhm.
And sadly, the hunter had too many sucky choices. So
Yeah. Would you like shitty or crappy?
Yeah.
I think overall I like the hunter. And yeah, like I said, I really like that hunter's lore because I mean you have to think about it. If you wanted to try and do that, you would have to make a skill check, and then how
Yeah.
much that takes an action, and then then you have to prepare. So like while you're in combat may eventually be useful, it's still taking up an action to do, and
Well,
it's
like-
still subject to how well you roll on that skill check.
Our Monday campaign right now, we're fighting a dire troll. None of us know we have to hit it with acid or fire. It'd be really nice to have somebody with Hunter's Lore right now.
So
So we don't have to wait for it to get back up and then be like, okay.
So I started using like passive for things like that. I started using like the passive rules for just knowing what something is instead of having to sit there and think about it. You know, I know what I've heard about that. Doesn't necessarily, but just like any kind of passive check doesn't give you too many details. You'd still have to make the roll. But if your passive is high enough, I'd give you an advantage on that roll if you do so choose to do that. So I would use the passive rules in that case, and this just kind of clears that.
Yeah, no, it's super nice.
Okay.
When you're fighting things with vulnerabilities and immunities.
We are moving on to the rogue, and the rogue will round out our group of expert classes that we've talked about so far. If you don't know what an expert class is, Wizards of the Coast are kind of grouping classes together, moving into one D&D. And there's 4 classes altogether. There's experts, mages, priests, and warriors. The bard, the ranger, and the rogue belong to the expert class, and the cleric that we'll talk about next after the rogue is belongs to the priest class. So yes, on to the rogue. The class group for the rogue, as I just said, is the expert class. Its primary ability is dexterity. And in terms of its hit dice proficiencies and armor proficiencies between 5th edition D&D and 1 D&D are the same, minus the loss of the performance skill. So when you choose your skills that you're proficient in, you can no longer select the performance skill. They've also lost the hand crossbow and longsword proficiencies that they had in 5th edition, but instead they have gained the use of whips and scimitars. The sample starting equipment for a rogue includes 20 arrows, a burglar's pack, 2 daggers, leather armor, a quiver, a short bow, a short sword, thieves' tools, and 18 gold pieces. Or if you don't like that, you can forego all of it, and you can instead pick up 110 gold pieces, and you can use that money to spend on whatever equipment you want to start off with. If you didn't see the first half of the stream, basically Jack, who you can see, was kind of to formulate a change log for all of these classes and kind of compare what's changed between the 5th edition and 1 D&D editions of them. So I'm going to run through that for you guys now, and then we can dive into some of the details. So, like I just said, rogues have lost proficiency with hand crossbows and longswords. They've gained proficiency with scimitars and whips. Sneak attack now only applies on attacks made with the attack action. We'll definitely get into that. They've gained a language through Thieves' Cant. So if you don't know, Thieves' Cant is a special type of language that rogues and other rogues alike communicate in. Previously, you just pick that up by itself, but in 1 D&D, you pick that up and you gain an extra language. They've also gained a feature called Soul Strikes, which works a lot like the Pack Tactics feature. Again, if you don't know what that is, if you make a attack against an enemy and you have an ally within 5 feet of you, you gain advantage on that attack. They've lost the Blind Sense feature. Slippery Mind now includes Charisma saving throws in addition to Wisdom saving throws. Stroke of Luck now also works on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. And like all classes that we've talked about today and will talk about, they have gained a Epic Boon feature at 20th level. The following features have reshuffled. So subclass features have moved from 9th, 13th, and 17th level to 6th, 10th, and 14th level, including the one that you get at 3rd level. Expertise improvement has delayed from 6th to 7th level. Evasion has been delayed from 7th to 9th level. Elusive has been brought up from 18th to 17th level. And like I just said, the 20th level feature, Stroke of Luck, has now been brought up to 18th level to accommodate for the Epic Boon going in at 20th level. Now, with the other classes, there was quite a few things that I wanted to talk about in detail. There wasn't really a lot with the rogue, but one of the big glaring things and one of the things that defines a rogue is its ability to sneak attack. Now, I've wrote down massive nerf because you can only now sneak attack on your own turn, and can only acquire it through your action, no longer reactions or bonus actions. I might be wrong on the bonus action, and someone might tell me, but I'm definitely right on the reactions thing. What you'd see with a lot of rogue builds that try to abuse the sneak attack feature is they would try to get it when it wasn't their turn, because the 5th edition rogue and the 1D&D rogue exclusively say that you only get it once per turn. However, on the 5th edition, with the 5th edition rules, you could still activate it through a reaction on someone else's turn, and so on and so forth. And that would be a great way to increase your DPS. They've changed the wording on it. You can't do that anymore. So I think that's a massive nerf. Now, whether you think rogues were powerful to begin with, or whether you think they were underpowered, this will affect that anyway. So we will start with American Jordan this time, because I didn't start with you in the previous two ones, Jordan. So you can take the floor, but I want to know your thoughts specifically on these changes to sneak attack.
I like rogues, so I heard it makes me sad to see them get nerfed. Also, I'm playing one in Monday's game, and I don't want to see it get nerfed. But it does seem weird, because being able to sneak attack on a reaction almost feels like, because then you're actually being sneaky. Like, sneak attack has never been named appropriately. Because now it's just you can sneak attack. It's basically an aimed attack. It's not really, so I don't know. It seems like they either should change the name or they should change the flavor back so that you can use it on a reaction. But I can also see where that's kind of, when you're doing 30 damage with one arrow, it's a little bit weird. But
Call it tickle the kidneys.
yeah. But yeah, I'm not too horribly offended by it, but I do feel like it's becoming less and less of a sneak attack, and it just needs to be like an aimed attack or something like that. The name's going to bug me more so than the mechanics.
Jack, you got anything to add from a maths point of view?
Not really from a mathematical point of view. Only that I never really felt that the ability to use sneak attack outside of your turn was a particular issue. Because remember, if you were going to be making an attack, you were going to be using a reaction. So at most, you were making a second sneak attack around, bar from a few circumstances. So I think the 17th level thief feature, which allowed you to get another turn, could potentially mean you could sneak attack 4 times on the first round of combat. But, that's a 17th level feature. Anything that begins with at tier 4 doesn't count. There was also like an Unearthed Arcana release way back in the Out of the Abyss days, which are the fighting style called Tunnel Fighter, which meant opportunity attacks no longer used a reaction. Needless to say, this did not become official material for obvious reasons. But technically, a rogue with this feature, by multi-classing into fighter, could sneak attack 1 billion times, which might be considered a bit of an abuse, but I think that would be more in the fighting style rather than the concept. So all in all, I think the loss of sneak attack on a reaction was one of these things. It doesn't nerf the class too hard, but it is an unfortunate nerf, especially as a lot of the times you did get to use an opportunity attack. It was because the bard cast Dissonant Whispers, or the wizard cast Fear, or the cleric or paladin used their various turn features to force a creature to move. Like, at the end of the day, if you got a sneak attack from a reaction from an opportunity attack, you got that thing from teamwork, and teamwork's a good thing. Feels weird the rogue is so reliant on teamwork, but it is. There we go. That's D&D for you.
Yeah, and there was your commander's one of the battle maneuvers. I can't remember what it's called, commander's presence or something like that. Would also
commander's strike, I think.
Commander's strike, yeah. That would be a great way to get your to get that reaction when it wasn't your turn, or an order cleric can do the same thing as well.
Yeah, that feature was so ludicrously expensive. Only the rogue sneak attack made that thing worthwhile.
Oh, the order cleric thing.
No, the commander strike one, because the commander, because when you use that, the fighter had to give up their one of their attacks and their bonus action, so the rogue could use their reaction. So we've got 3 resources expended: an attack, a bonus action, and a reaction to make the sneak attack. So to make the attack. So it did require a lot of resources and was only usually worth it on a rogue, or maybe like a paladin who was prepared to smite.
Can we confirm the bonus action thing though? Am I right or wrong on that? Can you still sneak attack on a bonus action attack?
So it just says on your turns when you take the attack action, which presumably would refer to an attack made with the attack action, but not necessarily. So on the one hand, maybe, because it just says on your turns when you take the attack action. But on the other hand, it's probably intended to refer to an attack made with the attack action. But then on the other hand, where's a rogue going to get a bonus action attack from? Two-weapon fighting doesn't use it. The crossbow exit doesn't give a bonus action attack. I can't imagine a rogue is going to be using a halberd and Polearm Master unless someone makes a finesse one of those. So, and I completely see what you're saying. It probably does, but doesn't actually affect any rogues that currently exist in 1D&D.
I actually have a point
The
to
answer
make
is
on
maybe.
Come up.
Well, in the wording, and specifically, it says once on each of your turns when you take the attack action. And then further down, it says to one creature that you hit with an attack roll. So it does separate the two. And the attack action can only be done as an action, not a bonus action. Now, if there's something, an ability or a spell or something like that, that allowed you to take the attack action as a bonus action, like it changes it to a bonus action, then yes. But I would say it wouldn't work by that wording just because you get an attack roll as a bonus action. You see what I'm saying? It's literally about the verbiage here. It specifically says to an attack roll. And it actually differentiates between the two, an attack action and an attack roll. So I would say no, it wouldn't just work like on a bonus action. But I think they could have allowed the sneak attack as just as an attack roll and just said that they can only do it once per turn. So, you know, that
Use it as a reaction or on your action.
yeah, as long as it's, you know, once per turn. So between the time that you take your action and the next time it goes around, if you get it as a reaction, I wouldn't see that would be too big of a problem. And all they had to do, the only caveat was to say you can only do it once per turn. So say on your action, you actually miss, don't get to do it. But later on in the round, somebody gives you the ability to do it as a reaction. You still have the chance to use it. That's my take.
Yeah, that's how the PHB did it.
Yeah. Because I am actually of the notion that the 5e PHB rogue is underpowered. I feel like the best way to use a rogue in 5th edition is to multi-class into something else. And 9 times out of 10, if we're just talking damage, the best way to do it is just to dip into 3 levels of assassin and go from there.
Rogues are cheaty.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Jack.
But they're rogues. It fits.
I think
to be cheating.
I think reliable talent is, you know, one of the most powerful features the rogue gets. You know, but you know, it depends how often your campaign, you know, has you make ability checks. So you know, with your campaign, the rogue probably is the most powerful class in the game.
Well, yeah, I'll expound on that when you're done, but I'll tell you why. But go ahead.
But
continue.
not till 11th level though.
Yeah.
Before that, you're just trap bait.
Oh, are you done, Jack?
Oh, I was done as well. I was just saying I think that's why you would say it's overpowered, because reliable talent.
It is because my wife plays a 17th level assassin. Good luck fucking hitting her, doing damage, unless I have the enemy specifically targeting her, like going after her, trying to find her. It's so you get up there, you do your damage, ridiculous amount of damage at 17th level for a rogue, right? Then you use your cunning action and you bail, and hide. And you hide somewhere. And your reliable talent, my wife can't get below a 26 at that level because of that. because expertise and reliable talent can't roll under a 10. So there are very few things that, other than another rogue, that you can't hide from, because the difficulty to hide in combat is literally just off of their passive perception. So you're going to beat that almost always. And if the creature wants to find you, the enemy wants to find you, they have to use an action to find you, which means they're not attacking you. And then the next turn, you do the same fucking thing. So, you know, the ability to save for no damage on AoE stuff, or uncanny dodge reduce damage like by half if the thing can find you and actually land a hit. It's in combat, a rogue is incredibly difficult to hurt at much higher, at like higher levels, like, you know, reduce those hit points.
I would say that she must have found a way to disengage if she's able to get away without then getting hit with an opportunity attack and then using the bonus action to hide. Does she have the mobile feat?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be why.
But even still, her armor class is so high right now. Even if she just left combat and risked a attack of opportunity, and then use the cunning action to hide, it's hard to. It's still hard to hit because she has like a high armor class as well. It's 17th level anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, but at 8th level, there's a good chance a rogue will have an armor class that's comparable to plate, because studded leather and 20 dexterity is 17 AC, and then plate is 18 with disadvantage in stealth checks.
Right.
Which are mechanically pretty similar compared to how medium armor, they seem to consider +1 AC a trade-off for the disadvantage.
Yep. But yeah, it's very hard unless I focus on her. It's hard to actually just damage her. She's like, it's one of those things. She has to be the last one in the group that you go after and kill, because you had to wade through everyone else because it was just useless to focus on her. You know, it just becomes really difficult in general to do that stuff. And the fact, like, I had to reinstitute the one is always a failure, because at this level, and she also played it, she bought skilled as well, so she actually had other extra skills that she was proficient in. So it was like, just doing anything, it was like, just don't bother rolling, because I can't, the difficulty's not high enough for that stuff, you know? So it's like, I want at least the ability to have there has to be some kind of circumstance that may foil your plans. That one board that creaks really loud when you step on it, you know?
I'd say drop in AoE, but of course the good ones for that are dex saves.
Save for none. So yeah, rogues are cheaty broken, especially like after they get the, past like level 10, they just starts getting ridiculous. That's my take. Rogues need to be nerfed.
I disagree. Well, I disagree. I disagree
for one,
with
dude. Run for one, and you see how it works out. I've tried everything.
I don't think sneak attack should be nerfed in the way that it has.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not saying just sneak attack. I mean the overall rogue package needs to be readjusted some.
I've never really liked reliable talent, to be honest, just because of the way it disrupts the game mechanics. I'd rather it was just advantage on the ones you're proficient with, and then the folded stroke of luck into it. That's reliable, isn't it? You have advantage, and sometimes you can just say you succeed anyway, like once per short rest.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's way better.
Reliable talent does seem like a weird rogue feature, and overpowered. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Because I don't think the rogue's too overpowered in combat, unless they can hide, which they usually can. But the reliable talent's always vaguely irked me. But I've never had to DM for reliable talent. DM for a rogue, campaign finished at 10th level.
Yeah. Get past 10th, my dude. You'll see the pain. You'll feel it.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, apart from that, like, most of the stuff's the same. We do have subtle strikes, like I said, that was introduced, which basically means that you have advantage now, when you have an ally in 5 feet, like I said, like pack tactics. So it's kind of like an always on sneak attack, but you are ensuring that you are hitting as well as doing that extra damage.
What is that called?
Subtle strikes. It's 13th
subtle.
level. Yeah. And it replaced what was it? Blind sense. I wouldn't say replaced, but subtle strikes is 13th and blind sense was at 14th, and blind sense it said if you are able to hear, you are aware of the location of any hidden or invisible creatures within 10 feet of you. So they no longer get that, but they do get subtle strikes. Two different things, but yeah.
So you get your sneak attack if someone's within 5 feet. So a subtle strike just allows you to now get your sneak attack with advantage.
Yep.
The way blind sense worked is, do you remember that feature that we were all complaining about like an hour ago about the ranger getting at 15th level? It was that at 14th level, but worse. Because it was 10 feet rather than 30.
Right.
So do not miss blind sight at all.
No. I'm not sure how good subtle strike is as a 13th level, but
all it does is give you advantage on your attack
right.
roll.
You can get advantage really easily. So
and
it seems kind of
that's all it does. Really, at 13th level, I agree. That's all it does.
Like reliable talent is massive, and then all of a sudden, and then it's just meh. Like
I think if your table bans flanking, it's a bit harder for the rogue to get advantage. But I use flanking with flanking providing advantage. So I think the pack tactics under a different name probably isn't as effective.
Which is a good point. Like because I know some people they just do like a +2 for flanking instead of advantage, and I can see mechanically why that might be nice to not trigger some of this kind of stuff, but
yeah, I'm considering using flanking with the +2, which is the OG way of doing it. But giving advantage, especially where I use the brutal criticals rule, that's doubling your chances of potentially doing that. So yeah, I +2 I might give you, but not advantage on flank.
I can maybe if subtle strikes was 11 for the advantage, and if flanking was defined as a +2 or didn't exist, then that advantage becomes a little bit more powerful.
Right.
But
yeah, because you're already it's not like I said. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not all that great because you already satisfy your use of sneak attack because it means somebody else has to be within 5 feet of the enemy, which is same deal.
There is no steady aim in this UA, which was a Tasha's Cauldron. Yeah, it was a Tasha's feature at level 3, which if you hadn't moved that turn, you could use your bonus action to no longer be able to move that turn, but you'd gain advantage on the attack. So that would be another way to get advantage. But if you don't have that either, then it would also buff subtle strikes that way.
I think steady aim maybe should have been only for ranged attacks, because it does seem a little bit kind of crazy. Because if you're engaged in something, you're not really moving anyway. But if you're using your swords and stuff, I don't know. Steady aim
call it something different.
Right. Again, it's the flavor and the names of stuff are never very good in D&D. I've noticed, and I keep getting more mad about that than the mechanics.
I agree with that. Not to completely diverge from D&D, but the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system has the same thing where you can take an aim, basically an aim action as part of your turn, but it worked with melee, which doesn't make sense to me. The wording is just awful. Call it something else.
Yeah,
but I do think steady aim is an apt title for a ranged attack.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Steady, you're not moving. Aim, you're getting advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Why not do like
I was
careful
surprised
shot
on
or
Monday.
something?
Careful
Better
shot.
than
Or, like,
sharpshooter, where one of the things of sharpshooter was take a penalty to your accuracy.
Yeah.
Like they used to have something. I don't remember there used to be something called dirty fighting, and I don't remember if that was if that's a 3.5 thing or but like dirty fighting might have been a better name for it, like where you're just taking advantage of being a cheaty rogue. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like when I was playing the Monday campaign, I was surprised to find out that steady aim worked if I was up in melee range, and I was like, oh well, all right.
Yeah.
But I think it's maybe overpowered if it works with your swords because you're not going to move if you're up next to your guy anyway. But
but if you're a rogue, you can bonus action to disengage, and then you are free to move.
Yeah.
And that might actually be better because if you've got a speed of 30 feet and they don't, like you're fighting gnomes or oozes,
Right.
then actually a steady aim is something you wouldn't want to be using, especially against oozes. Every hit's a hit.
Yeah.
But but the ability to get away is a nice thing to have, especially if you've managed to get some bonus to your speed, or just the enemy's slow, or you're a wood elf, or any of those reasons.
Yeah.
If you're
I do wanna
fast and they are not.
I don't want to give British Jordan a chance to speak because I don't think he's had much an opportunity to say anything about the rogue. So
Oh, it's because I don't have much to say about it. I like the direction. I keep harping on about class identity, but it's one of the things that I love about class design and subclass design in general. It does feel like we lose a little bit of the identity by losing the sneak attack on the reaction strikes, but other than that, it feels just as comfortably strong in that kind of respect.
Yeah, and
Rogues
if you're a 17th level assassin, theoretically, roleplay wise, you're sneaking into somebody and trying to kill them in like as quickly as possible and get away. And so the fact that an assassin is really difficult to target and kill in a group combat makes a lot of sense to me. And the one like mentality of playing rogue that's always nice is no matter what situation you're in, you're always going to be the one that gets away. Like I'll be fine. You're all gonna die, but I really want that thing over there, and so you're gonna help me get it. And then I'm like, and so it kind of makes sense that they're sort of always the ones that get away, narratively as much as it does mechanically. So that's why I don't know. But they also, they can't. If you can hit them, they usually can't take as many hits as like your fighters or your barbarians and that kind of stuff either. And so it's beneficial for them to have a group so that they can hide and get away. But a solo assassin is kind of difficult to play. Maybe not at 17th level, but
Well, yeah. So I agree that is how a rogue should operate. And really, honestly, the worst part about it, the thing that makes it broken, is the reliable talent.
yeah, I can totally ditch that.
Because when
skill checks are bad enough at 17th
even if
level.
you rely on actually using the disengage, every other turn you're attacking from hidden because you're sneaking, you're hidden at that point, you hide. And granted, you still have to break line of sight. It has to be realistic. You can't just you can't hide behind the same column every turn. But once you do that with the reliable talent, it's impossible to have them roll low enough that you'd be able to find them.
And at those high levels, you really don't need it because you're already looking at like +9s and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then again, they're also immune to AoEs. So even if whatever it is throws out there, at best you're going to do half damage.
They're not immune. The rogues normally don't have the best con saves. They are, of course, proficient in wisdom saves at high levels, and of course, proficient at dex saves and low levels, and there's evasion and all the rest of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to damage, saves, all the saves they really have to worry about are deck saves. Because if they're worrying about other save types, that requires that enemy to know where the hell you are and look at you and target you with whatever that spell is. But no, you've disappeared. You are in the shadows somewhere and you can't find them. So, you'd really have to. I've had to use things like that where, okay, she didn't hide this turn, and I'd throw out like a hold person or something like, you stay right there. And then you do it, like go from there. So you really have to play tactically to defeat a high level rogue, or even include them in the pain.
There are AoE spells that aren't dex based though.
Yes, but they're rare.
Plenty of those.
They are rare.
Just got him with sleep.
And innate abilities from monsters as well.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
With the
try hard. It's hard to detonate the hitter.
With that, having to play tactically to take down a high level rogue, not necessarily. As long as your rogue is playing tactfully, you need to play tactically.
Oh yeah, no, she does.
Exactly.
My wife is cruel. I am forced to be more cruel.
So the moral of the lesson
sounds like
is
you've
that
married Ho Chi Minh's daughter.
So, the hell is B-Bits bot?
Dear D&D, make it easier for Matt to hit his wife, is what we're hearing.
Yes, please.
Nice.
Otherwise, she's just gonna carve out a kidney, maybe take their liver, and then disappear into the shadows. It's a pain in the ass. Because it's definitely, it's one of those things when I create encounters, it's literally I have to create an encounter that deals with the rest of the group and her specifically. They're like separate. Because she playing a rogue and is so dramatically different than just about every other class. It's literally, you either create something that is designed to kill a rogue, or they're gonna go after the rest of the party. So
next encounter, you find yourself in a blank white void devoid of cover to hide behind.
I have done stuff like that. I've done that in aquatic encounters. There's nowhere to hide generally.
Yeah.
Mirrors.
Flying.
Everywhere.
She grabs a squid.
When they've been flying, can't really hide there unless it's nope. Sorry, it is a real clear day. There are no clouds. Kiss my ass. Or in a desert. Deserts, there, if you're out on open sand, there's really nowhere for you to hide. So I have done that. Then usually somebody else in the party will throw invisibility on her or something like that. And it's just kind of like, it is all still in good fun. I complain. I don't think everything on a rogue is broken. I just think reliable talent under the standard 5th edition rules was completely broken, because it doesn't, as part of the mechanic, have the auto fail on one, something that you have to add in. So with that being said, reliable talent, especially at really high levels, you can't fail.
Especially considering they get expertise.
Right.
And they're gonna put that, and you're gonna put that into stealth. So like, I don't know.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
I would
get below 26.
And then you're getting 40s every time.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to touch on was there was a slight buff to Slippery Mind, because now it gives you proficiencies in charisma saves. They are probably the least common save in the entire game. So that's only a very minor buff. And then Stroke of Luck, like I said, now can also apply to saving throws, which is really good. But it's an 18th level ability, so I'm fine with that. Do we want to do a quick subclass run through of the Thief?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So, you still get your rogue subclass at 3rd level, like you did in 5th edition. And I will read through the Thief features. So, at 3rd level, you get 2 features. One's called Fast Hands. So this gives you additional options for what you can do with your cunning action. So you can take the search action, or you can do a sleight of hand action, which means that you can make a dexterity check, sleight of hand, to pick a lock or disarm a trap with these tools, or to pick a pocket. The other feature is second story work. And basically you gain a climb speed equal to your, just says speed, but I'm guessing that should be walking speed. And then jump distance. When you take the jump action, you can make a dexterity check instead of a strength check. That's pretty good. At 6th level, you get Supreme Sneak, so you have advantage on every dexterity check that involves stealth, provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor. At 10th level, you get Use Magic Device. So in your I won't read the flavor, but basically you can attune to up to 4 magic items at once. I've never played. I've never even read like the thief subclass before, so someone can confirm that. But that was something I only thought was explicit to artificers, so that seems pretty good. And then you also get charges. So whenever you use a magic item property that expends charges, you roll a d6, and on a roll of 6, you use the property without expending the charges. That seems pretty nice.
Yeah, it's been majorly buffed.
And then, and then within Use Magic Device, you get another one called Scrolls. It says you can use any spell scroll that bears a cantrip or a 1st level spell. You can also try to use any spell scroll that contains a higher level spell, but you must first succeed on an Intelligence Arcana check with a DC equal to 10 plus the spell's level. On a successful check, you cast a spell. You use Intelligence as your ability, and on a failed check, the scroll disintegrates. And then 14th level is Thief's Reflexes. You can now take a second bonus action on your turn, provided it is the bonus action from Cunning Action. And you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus times per long rest. So to change log those things, the thief has lost the use of use an object with Cunning Action. They've gained Search and Pickpocket with the Cunning Action. Secondary story work clarifies to climbing speed. Your jump distance increases, change to fit with the new jump action rules. Your Supreme Sneak now has a armor restriction, but not a movement restriction. Magic Device has been completely rewritten, and Thieves' Reflexes gives an extra bonus action, not an extra turn. So that is a big nerf. But I think previously that was.
It was also only before Thieves' Reflexes was only on the first round of any combat, whereas now, that's actually pretty potent.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. And I was about to say, it went from a 17th level feature to a 14th level as well. Free table if anyone wants to kind of pick the bones out of that. I don't have too much experience with the thief.
I think the Use Magic Device changes, especially getting that 4th magic item, balances thief, because I've always felt like, why would you ever play a thief when you be an arcane trickster? And I feel like that Use Magic Device kind of balances that out a little bit if you're playing 10th level or above. But
yeah, and that with reliable talent, if you actually have Arcana, you're not going to fail a roll unless you roll a natural 1.
I think that would be great just by itself, just getting ability to tune to 4 different magic items. I feel like that's really good.
I kind of, it'd be nice if you got that. If you got that earlier, it'd be nice. Because again, nobody plays above level 10 like statistically, and so I'm always kind of like, I ignore anything above level 10, and then what is the class before that? And there's not all that really cool stuff for Thief prior to 10, and so it would be kind of nice if some of that stuff maybe got weakened and then put earlier, and then slowly progressed to get better. But
I think I prefer the PHB's magic item use though. So I mean, we talked about about using scrolls, but I think the PHB one could do that anyway, since it says you ignore all class requirements,
all class, race, and level requirements.
Yeah. The other thing was, because you ignore class relations, you could use a Staff of Power, not to attack with. You still like have a rapier in the other hand for your actual stabbing, but you could just attune to a Staff of Power and fireball people. That was.
I suppose this version doesn't say that you ignore any of that stuff anymore. I didn't catch that. It adds the attunement thing. The charges is new, but
Yeah, you just get a
I mean,
an
don't get me
extra
wrong. Like
attunement.
multi-class into one level of a wizard, and you can still use your staff of power.
Right.
But yeah, as a pure thief rogue, or you know, you can't use the staff of power, or just some of the good magic staffs. There's a lot of good magic staffs.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I did.
In some hands, it makes sense because it's like, okay, maybe it's just too complex of a magic item. That's why it's got a restriction to wizards. For a thief to just kind of fun around, it's not like they're going to find like a magic button. But it's also weird that it's called use a magic device, but you actually can't use a bunch of them.
I did realize something with the third level fast hands feature, in that it's make a dex check, sleight of hand to pick a lock or disarm a trap with thieves' tools, or to pick a pocket. Okay. Does that mean thieves' tools is no longer its own kind of check? Can you no longer be proficient in thieves? Have expertise with thieves' tools? Because I looked back at the rogue's expertise feature in the PHB, and it says you can have it with proficiency with your thieves' tools, but it doesn't mention it here in 1D&D.
Yeah, this kind of makes it sound like thieves' tools is just a tool you need to make a certain type of sleight of hand check.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, no. When you have thieves' tools are like lockpicks, counterweights. You know, it's stuff like that. None of that would be used to pick a pocket.
Right.
You know?
No.
So they are separate. If you're proficient in thieves' tools, I wouldn't give you advantage on a sleight of hand check to pick a pocket, because they don't
No.
overlap at all. But if you're going to, you still, when you're picking a lock or you're disarming a trap, it utilizes your thieves' tools, not sleight of hand. So it's still.
Yeah, this
still
is
the
just
same
sort of
thing.
equating it.
I think that's why they're just pointing out. That's why they're adding them there as separate.
Oh,
Separately,
that makes sense.
it affects both separately.
Yeah, the ability is called sleight of hand, but it isn't necessarily the same thing as the sleight of hand skill. It encompasses a little bit more than the sleight of hand skill does.
So
again, they should just name things better.
That's fair. But still doesn't look like a way to get an expertise in a tool anymore. Looking at the 1D&D entry for expertise, it is just skill proficiency and not tool proficiency.
Really?
Well, does it say skill proficiency? Well, hold on.
It says
you gain
skill.
expertise in 2 of your skill proficiencies of your choice.
So tool proficiency, is that a skill proficiency? Is 1D&D going to define them that way?
It'd be nice if they did something to make their tools
Question.
make more sense.
Because
tools are listed separately from skills in the class starting proficiencies list.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up.
Yes, but I'm saying rules-wise, like if you look under tool proficiency or tool checks, does it say you're just making, is it a skill check using that, that tool?
Looks like it's,
or is it just straight up an ability check?
It looks like it's sort of tool proficiency. If you have proficiency with a tool, you can add your proficiency bonus to any ability check you make that uses that tool. If you have proficiency in the skill that also used with that check, you now have advantage on the check. This means you can benefit from both skill proficiency and tool proficiency on the same ability check. So they are different things. Effectively, tools are sort of like getting the aid action on a skill check almost.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to what British Jordan was saying, and you can't no longer get expertise with tools.
On tools.
Yeah.
You can still be proficient in them, but not expertise.
Which is kind of nice, but also kind of weird.
Well, I could see somebody being an expert with thieves' tools and
tool.
not be an expert at sleight of hand, because they're
Right.
2 different skill sets. I think, at least I would homebrew this. I would say yes, you can use expertise on tools.
The only argument I can see for why they might have gone that way is so that your problem where she can't fail. Now, if she can't get expertise in thieves' tools, you can still make locks that might be difficult. But with the fact that they can't roll under a 10, like, that's moot anyway.
Right.
So, I don't
That's
know.
what I'm saying. It's the same with skills. Like it's,
Yeah.
it would go the same way. And actually in D&D Beyond, I wonder, can you right now select expertise on a tool?
I think so.
You can, but the only instance where I've seen it work is with the thieves' tools.
Well,
I've never
It's
seen
it's
anyone.
kind of the only tool set that really makes
Yeah.
sense.
I don't know, Jordan.
Well,
you're gonna go for
Unless you.
expertise on taxidermy, aren't you?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna find a way to make that combat appropriate.
See expertise on alchemist supplies, on smithing tools for building greater quality gear, so on and so forth. I
But a
can
lot
see
of
it
that stuff,
working
like,
on a lot of it.
you kind of need to start homebrewing at that point for like a lot of the other tools because there isn't a lot of support for.
That's maybe why they have just got rid of it completely, just to streamline
Yeah.
and simplify.
That tracks.
The campaign books don't often mention tool checks. I mean, even when they talk about lockpicking, they always say make a dexterity sleight of hand check with thieves' tools. Like you have to be holding the tools. Now, I've always just ignored that and said, "Give me a dexterity thieves' tools check," because I believe that should be a tool check. But that doesn't, But the books do consider lockpicking to be a skill that uses a tool. The books have always been a bit weird about what tool checks should be. I think only Xanathars has ever made the effort to do it properly.
Expertise in D&D Beyond right now specifically states thieves' tools. So the only thing they did was not do that. It says you choose 2 or more of your skill proficiencies or 1 more of your skill proficiencies and your proficiency with thieves' tools. And so you couldn't just do any
So
tool
it's just
currently.
So it's streamlining the process for spreading expertise to all 4 of the expert classes, because Artificer is one of the expert classes. It's just not being talked about yet.
Yeah. I feel like they tried to make tools too basic. But I guess that's where like 90% of the crunch comes from, and they were like, we're just gonna ignore it in order to keep things streamlined.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
the
way that they rule, that using tools is an ability check. Except there's like differences between like thieves' tools. Like thieves' tools is both an ability check and a, yeah, I don't know.
It's weird. I don't think they have a very clear definition between the two.
Yeah, because it's still when you look up thieves' tools, the verbiage is the same as any other tool, that it allows you to add your proficiency bonus to any tool checks. If it just went off of skill, then you're already adding your proficiency bonus to that check. So it's, you know what I mean? It's verbiage.
I could see a change of being able to have it on tools with, for example, musical instruments are a tool thing. So having expertise in a specific musical instrument for a bard
give you advantage on performance.
Makes sense.
Yeah, which would be nice. Yeah, if tools just basically gave you advantage on skill checks that used them, instead of trying to make them as like this weird sort of like it's a skill check, but it's also not a skill check. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of tools that just don't really translate to anything, like blacksmithing tools. There's no skill
what
check
is the smithing school?
It'd be nice if they did like a deep dive on tools with a book that you could ignore it if you wanted to, but actually had the mechanics so that tools were. I mean, Xanathars tried, but it didn't do a very good job, I don't think. Like there's a better crafting system that isn't just gold based, and then like even harvesting for rangers would be really nice if rangers had a way to actually go out and harvest animal parts and the things that they fight and use them, and to make themselves cooler would make a ranger a lot more interesting.
Listen, keep your kinks to yourself there, okay?
Just because you're a collector. I want excuses to 3D print more animal parts. That's it.
It's true.
I'm not even playing a ranger.
So
Right,
yeah.
I am gonna move us on
Oh
from
sure.
Rogue because
Kick us out.
I do want to make sure we capture all things cleric, and that is where we're going to go next. So unlike the 3 classes that we talked about so far, the cleric is a member of the priest class group alongside the druid and the paladin. And its primary ability is wisdom, and in terms of its hit dice proficiencies and armor proficiencies, these are all the same as the ones it got in 5th edition. A sample starting equipment for a cleric looks like a chain shirt, a holy symbol, a mace, a priest's pack, a shield, and 7 gold pieces. Or you can forego all of that and pick up 110 gold pieces and spend that on whatever equipment you want. In terms of the chain log stuff, before I go into that, it should be noted that subclass proficiencies and blessed strikes have been moved from the subclasses to the main class. And then to get into the nitty-gritty of the change stuff, clerics have gained proficiency in short swords, since these are now classed as a simple weapon. Channel Divinity now has a Divine Spark option. There are various spellcasting changes. Holy Order replaces subclass proficiencies. Smite Undead no longer auto kills certain undead but damages all undead. Blessed Strikes, like I said, have moved from the subclasses. There is also a Holy Order expansion. Divine Intervention has a 2d6 day recharge, not 7-day, as in previous, like it was previously in 5th edition. And then 18th level, that actually changes to 2d4 instead of 2d6. So the cooldown time is better at 18th level. And again, like all class features, the cleric has also gained a epic boon at 20th level. The following features have also been moved. So the subclass features have moved from 1, 2, 6, and 17th level to 3, 6, 10th, and 14th level. Channel Divinity is being brought forward from 2nd level to 1st level. Subclass proficiencies have been pushed back from 1st level to 2nd level, obviously in accordance with you are no longer getting your subclass until 3rd level, which is the case with every class now. That's something big we'll talk about, especially with Cleric, because Cleric was one of the classes that actually got their subclass at 1st level. Blessed Strikes have been brought forward from 8th to 7th level. Divine Intervention is now a 11th level feature instead of a 10th. And Greater Divine Intervention has been brought forward from 20th level to account for that epic boon and moved to 18th level. And this is also the case with all your other former 20th level class features. Thing I want to talk about first is the Channel Divinity stuff. So, like I said, this is now moved to a 1st level feature, and it has the additional caveat of Divine Spark. So I will read that out to you. So basically, as a magic action, which is a new type of action, you point your holy symbol at another creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself and focus divine energy at them. Roll a number of d8s equal to your proficiency bonus and add the rolls together. You either restore hit points to the creature equal to that total, or force the creature to make a con save. And on a failed save, the creature takes that damage in radiant, or half on a successful save. The other change, like I said, is the change to turn undead. So again, as a magic action, you present your holy symbol and speak a prayer censoring undead creatures. Each undead within 30 feet of you must make a wisdom save. If the creature fails its saving throw, it is now dazed. Get back to that. For 1 minute, or until it takes any damage, or you are incapacitated or die. And while dazed in this way, the only action the creature can take is the dash action. And if it moves, it must end that move farther away than from you than when it started. And just to clarify what a dazed action is, this is a new type of dazed condition. This is a new type of condition introduced in 1D&D. And it states that it's now a limited activity. You can only move or take one action on your turn, not both. You also can't take a bonus action or a reaction. So like I said in the change log, you now don't auto kill certain undead. Previously, that was tied to the CR rating of the undead that you were using your Channel Divinity on. but now you can damage them instead. Kind of a lot to unpack there, just in terms of channel divinity. And I haven't had you start yet, British Jordan. So you can take the reins on this one. Do we like Divine Spark? Do we like the changes to Turn Undead, introducing this new dazed condition? What are your thoughts?
I really, really enjoy Divine Spark as a feature. It again is this. I mean, it's essentially having cure wounds and inflict wounds on channel divinity.
Yep.
That's what it breaks down into, isn't it? And that is very, very good for that kind of back on class identity stuff. I'm kind of stuck there. It is very cleric feeling, and it is very unique to the cleric on that kind of feeling. These big pushes of divine power. Turn Undead, I like the changes. Dazed is an interesting condition. It's an interesting one. I preferred Frightened because it felt more thematic, but Dazed is fine. It's still good.
Mm-hmm.
I have words about the spellcasting, but we'll get to that later.
Yes. I'll definitely make sure you get time to say what you want on those.
So I would just like to say the previous Turn Undead, the condition was turned.
Turned, yes.
Yeah, because a lot of undead are immune to the frightened condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And just reading the old channel divinity. So the old channel divinity, I think I'm getting this right. Could actually reset on a short and a long rest, whereas this one only resets on a long rest. I guess that is another big change.
You can get a holy order to get it back
yes.
on a once on a short rest.
Yes,
But,
we're
yeah.
going to get onto that, but yeah. Yes, that is the next thing. Holy Order, which is a new feature, and it basically gives the option of taking 3 different orders. The first is a Protector, which gives you proficiency in martial weapons and heavy armor. The next is a Scholar, which is proficiency in either Arcana, History, Nature, Persuasion, and Religion. And when you make a check with one of those, you can add your Wisdom bonus on top of it again. So that's pretty nice. And then the last one is Thaumaturge, which gives you an extra cantrip. And like Jack just said, you get 1 use of your channel divinity back on a short rest. And I should also just clarify that the number of channel divinities that you do get scales with proficiency bonus. But yes, you will get an extra 1 back on a short rest if you go Thaumaturge. You gain another. So whichever 2 orders that you didn't take, I think it's 2nd level, right? Whichever ones you didn't take at 2nd level, you gain another 1 at 9th level. And like I said in the change log, basically what this is doing is this is implementing some of the subclass proficiencies into the overall cleric class, which I think's pretty nice. And you did have something to say there, Jack, so I'll let you take this one. How do you feel about Holy Order?
So, in terms of the holy orders, I think that 3 of the 3 of them are sort of fine, and I think they do a reasonable job at getting the cleric to diverge. Well, the one that I wasn't particularly fond of was the Protector in tier 3 and 4 play. Because the idea of giving someone heavy armor and martial weapons is you're giving them proficiency in martial weapons under the assumption that they'll use them. And the problem is that for the cleric, even with Blessed Strikes, you will do more damage with Sacred Flame than a weapon attack at 11th level and onwards. And whilst it's true that there are magic weapons, magic weapons tend to be better than magical items that boost saving throw DCs. The fact of the matter is that you're taking a feature that's great for the first 10 levels and not so good for the next 10. So I think at 9th level, rather than take another Holy Order, I'd rather that the Holy Order's improved. I'm not sure what I'd recommend for the Protector. Maybe the Blessed Strikes could increase to 2d8. Maybe they could get extra attack. Maybe they could get like something similar to the Eldritch Knight's War Magic. So they could cast a cantrip and then make a weapon attack as a bonus action. Just something like that to make sure that if you are taking the Holy Order that lets you make weapon attacks, that encourages you to make weapon attacks, that it's actually beneficial to do so. It's the classic problem Wizards of the Coast have been making full caster gishes. The Blade Singer, I think, is the only one that's really knocked that out of the park in terms of making tier 3 and 4, weapon combat worthwhile.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think I agree. Yeah, instead of well, you maybe don't even need to you can maybe still give people the option of taking a new one or advancing the one that they've already got. I don't see them doing that, but I do think it would be better to advance those at level 9, like you said, just to kind of bring them more in line with the difficulty of combat at that level. And what else? Yeah, go on.
Especially if you're getting it at 9th level, it's a really good opportunity for them to have made those. They can make them strong for the 1 through 10, and then they could have at 9th level then, like he was saying, tweak them just a little bit to make them still valid and still powerful for the end game. So yeah, I 100% agree. I think that it should have just expanded upon the one you had versus just. I felt like giving you a second Holy Order was just lazy. There's I don't know what to do here, so let's let them pick another one, rather than they could have actually done some really cool stuff.
Yeah, you want to say something, Matt?
Yeah. One thing we're not really considering here is the cleric subclasses. Maybe now that they, whenever they create something like they're giving it a name, a protector, a scholar, a thaumaturge. Well, maybe when you choose a subclass, you get access to different abilities, like certain abilities, if you are one of those 3. Maybe they vary in each subclass depending on which Holy Order you took.
Well, they've got the Life Domain subclass, so
yeah,
I don't know if they do any. I don't know if they do any of that in there.
I mean, I do like the idea of being able to play a more martial version of a subclass that is not generally, but you might want it to be. Maybe that's flavor, but I like the idea that you can do that if you so choose.
Yeah, it's interesting because Holy Order kind of feels like a subclass, so it's almost like there's now like this weird middle ground, and you get to kind of mix and match. Where clerics are now suddenly like a very versatile build, and I'd like to almost see that with some other stuff too. But definitely, I think the 9th level should have been an expansion. Taking
Protector means that you don't necessarily have to really worry about dexterity as a stat anymore, because you can go into battle wearing plate mail, which means you could focus more on your wisdom or things like that. It's there's a lot of subtle tweaks that you can do there, but again, like I said, when you took your your subclass, if you went with as a cleric of war, you got all of that stuff anyway. So now what are they going to do with the war cleric? How do they handle that subclass? It's useless to give them, access to martial weapons and heavy armor as part of that subclass if you can already get it as a protector.
I like the premise of it because I think one of the problems with cleric subclasses was they were very steered in one direction in terms of how they were built. Like, is this a martial cleric subclass, or is this like a more spellcasty healing one? And some of the times it was very distinct. Like the war cleric, for example, was never going to be this spellcaster healy one. It was always going to be martial. some of the subclasses were in that middle ground, and it kind of hampered you. Like maybe it was like 60-40% in martial, but you wanted to play it a bit spellcastery. And it because the way it was designed, it could still work like that, but you were kind of at a disadvantage. But now it pulls those features out of those subclasses, and and feeds them into the actual main class. And I do think that is better. But like you said, it's going to kind of depend on how the rest of these subclasses look. Looking at the life cleric, there is none of that. What you said, Matt. There's no association between the subclass features and the holy order stuff. There's no link there.
That's
so
just one subclass, though.
But there are some natural synergies between them. In like Thaumaturge with the life domain feels pretty good, but Scholar with the life domain feels better in that regard because you get that medicine check, you get those extra skills that align to that.
But I mean, you could also make the case that Protector synergizes. I protect my friends with my mace and then with my magic.
Yeah, the Holy Orders give you that ability to tailor your subclass a bit further to how you want to tell your character's story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's an example of what I was just saying. So the Death Cleric, perfect example. So at level 1, when you take Death Cleric, you gain proficiency with martial weapons, right? Now this just contradicts this next thing. So at level 1, you also get Reaper, which you learn 1 necromancy cantrip of your choice from any spell list. When you cast a necromancy cantrip that normally targets only 1 creature, the spell can instead target 2 creatures. So that is actually really, I don't know if you realize this, but that is actually really powerful, and you can really optimize just through that ability. And if you do that, the martial weapons thing just kind of becomes redundant. But now that you've taken that out, they don't need to go. They probably, if you were probably going to do that, you wouldn't go Protector, and you'd go with one of the other two because you'd get more mileage out of it.
It actually gets worse, Sam, because the Channel Divinity at 2nd level gives you extra necrotic damage when you make a melee attack. Now you might be thinking, well, what about all the melee spell attacks? Well, I mean, there's Shocking Grasp, but that's not necromancy. The only necromancy spell that existed at the time, well, there were 2 actually. There was Spare the Dying, which not a damaging one, and then there was Chill Touch, which is a ranged spell attack. And while they later added Toll the Dead, still not a melee attack. So you've got one feature that tells you to use weapons, one feature that tells you to use cantrips, and then there's another one that's melee attacks, but there are no melee spell attacks. So it's a weapon. It's a weird one. I guess they're good at both, but it's not great synergy.
No.
And because of the Holy Orders now, they're like every subclass of cleric now. All of them have to be reworked because every single one of them dictated your skills and proficiencies and things like that. All of those changed, and now that you have a 1 to 3 standard ability thing, all of the early stuff from each one of those is going to have to change. I'd like to see. I agree. Having access to martial weapon proficiencies and heavy armor is cool, but maybe give the Protector an additional attack at higher levels, so that a martial cleric who religiously trains for war should probably get a different, like an additional attack at higher level. Maybe not as many as any of the actual martial classes, but why not 2?
Right.
Or give them access to a
Protector,
fighting style.
Or
right.
that.
Because Protector, I would imagine if you're a cleric, Protector, you're protecting other people, not yourself. And so maybe that's also another situation where it should have been maybe they get like a reaction to shield somebody and increase AC or something like that too, or instead of being martial, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're clearly it's the way they're trying to worded is that you are pretty much the martial arm of whatever sect or order you
Yeah,
serve. You know.
you're a crusader cleric,
Yeah. Exactly.
sort of.
But I definitely do think it's a little bit lackluster. It needs to increase a little bit, because let's face it, I loved playing my Tempest cleric who wielded a maul just because, you know, it's just fun.
You have that thing where if you give the protector too many martial things, you start bleeding into that paladin territory and kind of
Yeah.
losing cohesion between
I mean,
those classes.
Class
Yeah.
identity.
I will say a paladin is a good few unique features, though. Their divine smite allows them to convert slots into damage very directly, and then of course you've got
It
the
does.
aura of protection as well. So I completely agree that that there would be, the better you make it, the more you risk overshadowing. But I think the paladin has enough unique features that unless a war cleric, or a protected cleric, I should say, is demonstrably better, then you can at least say the two are different.
We also haven't seen what they're going to do with a paladin.
Yeah.
That's true.
We haven't seen it, but looking at the ranger, I think I see exactly where it's gonna go.
What do
guess
you
we'll
think?
see.
I was hoping it would be almost nothing because the paladin's great.
Paladin
Yes,
is
I think
awesome.
I think
I think it's going to be
Paladin's
almost
cool.
nothing. The spell list is going to be limited based on schools primarily.
Which is what they're doing all around, yeah.
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 And we're going to see paladins gain a lot of utility and lose a lot of utility as well.
I do want to talk about Smite Undead because it goes back into the Channel Divinity stuff. So this replaces the Destroy Undead feature that I was talking about before. Which previously, when you used your Channel Divinity, if the undead was under a certain challenge rating, they would just instantly die if they failed their save. This time, you do extra damage to undead that have failed their turn undead saving throw equal to a number of d8 times your proficiency bonus in radiant damage. So it's that trade-off. It's like you don't get to just automatically destroy these, but you can now do damage to things that were perhaps above that challenge rating threshold. So yeah, it's a nice trade-off again. Again, I haven't played a cleric, so you guys could probably speak to this a bit more than me. But how do we feel about Smite Undead?
I think I like that better.
Yeah.
As a DM, throwing zombies and stuff at people, it's kind of cool when the cleric can just sort of like brandish their thing and like mass destroy stuff. But depending how much damage they do, it could still do that to the lower level stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and then as a DM, if I wanted to beef up, like, oh, this is a special zombie, I beef it. I don't have to figure out what its new challenge rating is. I can just give it more hit points and then let the math figure itself out. So it seems easier for a DM to still sort of scare and challenge your players, and a little bit more versatile for the cleric.
It also works, I think, where I think to really get the full benefit out of Destroy Undead, it has to be a large number of weak undead. So if you do a smaller number of strong undead, the AoE is absolutely worth using if it does damage, but it's not worth. It's not really worth trying to. You're not going to be able to destroy them. So I think I think it's more friendly to running encounters with small numbers of powerful undead. Will still be reasonably useful for large numbers of weak undead.
I mean, yeah, and if you wanted to get that effect where you had swarms and they were able to just sort of like AoE destroy them, you could just use the Mook rules or whatever they are, where it's like everything's just got one hit point. Which.
Yeah, I like it. I like that it does that that way now, because you can still theoretically, at higher levels, you can destroy a lot of undead, just by doing that much damage. Because there's a lot of like, if you come at a mid-level group with like a horde of skeletons, witches which is possible. I mean, can still be a challenging encounter, because when you swarm somebody, it's still a challenging encounter. Having that cleric come in and just like swaths of these little undead just kind of get cleared out. It's a valid tactic.
I mean, skeletons are a perfect example for this, actually, because the damage it does, I think, is 3d8 at 5th level, and which is about 13.5 damage, and skeletons, I believe, have 13 health.
Right.
So, in this case, you actually are, on average, doing the amount to just destroy them.
Right. So it still has that flavor. So it's still there, but it makes a little bit more sense instead of keeping it black and white, like they live or die.
Yeah.
So,
Jordan, British Jordan, you wanted to talk about
Magic.
I was talking about spell casting, yeah.
yes.
Like from where I was looking, it was pretty normal because clerics used to prepare the spells. They still prepare the spells. There was no changes to your spell table. I don't believe either. So what was it that you wanted to bring up with that?
It was primarily in that we know for a fact paladins are going to have the same spell list. And when close your eyes and picture a paladin, okay? They are heavy armor wearing, big weapon wielding, shield wielding sometimes, riding on a summoned steed, champions of their oaths kind of thing. And a lot of the spells on the divine list are the paladin spells. You could build a paladin light using a cleric.
Yeah.
You now have access to the smite spells as a cleric, which I don't think you got all of them previously, or any of them.
The cleric I don't think got any of them, but certain subclasses did. Like the Forge cleric got Searing Smite.
Yeah.
It would also open the druid to these same spells, just to expand.
Druid would be on the primal, yeah.
I wonder if that's another thing like Sneak Attack and Hunter's Mark, where smites shouldn't be spells; they should just be a class feature to keep the paladin separate from everything else. So you can't build a cleric that's basically the same thing as a paladin.
Claritin.
Claritin.
Yeah.
Claritin.
Claritin. Yeah, sounds like a medication. Are the list that they
the
have
problem
here?
Is
that
the
all
problem
of
is
them?
though paladins are already mad multiple ability score dependent, and if you multiclass them with a cleric, you would just compound that even more. So that's the problem you've got there. You might have an ISDM that would let you use the same spellcasting modifier for both, but
not even Shillelagh is going to get you out of that if you want to not be encumbered by your heavy armor.
That's a good point.
Especially as you still need 13 strength to multiclass in or out of paladin.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's
but no, these spells are these ones that they're added? Is that what I'm looking at? No,
this is just their spells. The divine spell list at the end of this document is just the spells that that clerics and paladins will have access to.
Wait.
One thing I did want to get you guys' opinion on, because I brought it up in the introduction to the cleric, is the fact that they've now moved cleric subclass from 1st level to 3rd level. Do you think this is the right thing for the game as a whole? How do you think this impacts the cleric? Do you think people will still make cleric subclass dips? Yeah. What are we thinking there? Because you will still pick up Channel Divinity at 1st level, and you'll get some of the spellcasting stuff, but that's it now. Whereas previously you were getting subclass features as well.
I think narratively I like it.
And mechanically, in standardizing the level up process across all the classes, I like it a lot as well.
Yeah,
especially with Holy Order.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, because I mean, even on those first couple of levels where you're not getting your class specific features, It's not like you're a cleric without a god. You just haven't got the mechanical benefits yet. Oh, and if you do want to play a cleric without a god for the first couple of levels, you can. But I mean, where the divine sparks is coming from, who knows? But,
Yeah, I think in order to have channel divinity, you'd have to have a god. You're just
yeah.
it's almost like the rank within your church. You're sort of got your god and whatever. Then you get your holy order, and then
Yeah.
once you've proven yourself, then you get into the full subclass. And so narratively, I kind of like that progression where you're. Indeed, it's almost like you're not actually your class until 3rd level, and then you're just like a rookie until 20th level, and then you're actually the full class. Which is why I know that nobody ever gets past 10, but still.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, at level 1, you've demonstrated your piety, that you can actually express your belief through some kind of magical effect. So you've proven yourself that you can follow that god, and by 3rd level, you're part of an order that teaches you the proper ways to follow your god. So that's what it is. Or you've in some way, shape, or form learned about how to do that, how to dedicate yourself. So yeah, I like that.
It does create more roleplay opportunities as well, having it at 3rd level, because you can kind of build up to that big moment where you dedicate yourself to a specific order. So I like that, because that was one of my favorite things about playing like the paladin, starting at level 1. You could work towards taking that oath and then having that moment in game, which I like. I'm just interested to see how they do it with warlock and sorcerer, which were the other ones that you'd got your subclass at 1st level. I'm interested to see what those 1st and 2nd level warlock features are and how they get around the sorcerer one, because sorcerer is the whole thing is it's in their blood. Of course, you can just go, well, they haven't unlocked it yet, and that's one thing, but
manifests.
Definitely interested to see how
Warlock. I think would be harder. I suppose Warlock could be the same sort of thing with Cleric, is like you're just starting to hear the whispers of your elder or whatever your patron is, and then you don't actually sign the agreement until 3rd level.
Or maybe you sign the agreement, but you just don't get the full benefits until 3rd level. The PHP already did that. You don't get your pat boon until 3rd level.
One to change the drug dealers thing. These powers are free. You can have these. And then eventually he's like, all right, well, now if you want the rest, let's make a deal.
The first sample is always free.
Exactly.
They'll probably move the pact boon to 1st or 2nd, probably 2nd level, like the order.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to create great role play opportunities as your magic blood manifests itself, or you have this 1-to-1 private role play scene with your new boss.
Just
as it were.
sign here. Let's prick your finger first.
Yeah. So that's good. Do you want to dive into the life cleric?
Can do.
I'll take that as a yes. So, yes. So as we just mentioned, everything now moves to 3rd level when it comes to subclasses, and if you go life cleric at 3rd level, you will get the Disciple of Life feature. So this says that when a spell you cast with a spell slot restores hit points to a creature, that creature regains additional hit points on the turn you cast the spell. The additional hit points equal to plus the spell's level. I will get back to that because I have some things to say on that, but I'll go through the rest of it first. At 6th level, you get Preserve Life. So it says you can use your Channel Divinity to heal a group of critically injured. As an action, you can expend 1 use of your Channel Divinity and restore a number of hit points equal to 5 times your cleric level. And it also says choose any creatures within 30 feet of yourself and divide those hit points among the chosen creatures. This feature can bring a creature's current hit points to no more than half its hit point maximum. At 10th level, you get Blessed Healer. When you cast a spell with a spell slot on another creature that restores hit points to it, you regain hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level on the turn you cast the spell. So it's a little bit of self-sustained healing there. And at 14th level, you get Supreme Healing. So when you would normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points to a creature with a spell that you cast with a spell slot, don't roll those dice for the healing. Instead, you use the highest number possible for each die. For example, instead of restoring 2d6 hit points to a creature with a spell, you restore 12. And to look at the changelog changes for that, nicely outlined by Jack once again. Disciple of Life no longer compatible with things like Goodberry. That was one of the things I wanted to bring up. Goodberry is a great example. It now says it has to be specifically just from like that spell at the time of casting that spell. So you could use it with Goodberry. My voice is gone. You could use it with Goodberry, or you could use it with Aura Vitality. When you use the bonus action to heal on subsequent rounds after you've already cast it, the actual life domain healing would apply to that, but now it doesn't. So that's a nerf there. Preserve Life now heals undead and constructs. Blessed Healer no longer works with Staff of Healing, and Supreme Healing no longer works with Staff of Healing. So again, most of these changes are kind of wording changes to, I guess, get around specific exploits. In terms of domain spells, Bless and Cure Wounds have been removed. Spiritual Weapon is being swapped for Prayer of Healing. Beacon of Hope is being swapped for Mass Healing Word. Guardian of Faith has been swapped for Aura of Life, and Raise Dead has been swapped for Greater Restoration. I'm going to give myself a rest, and I'll leave it. I'll leave it an open floor before I cough myself to death.
So I'm of the opinion that when it says spells level, like additional hit points equals 2 plus the spell's level, that should read the additional hit points equal 2 plus the level the spell was cast at.
That's what I thought. It looks like Wizards of the Coast made a clerical error.
I am
Oh,
shocked.
you son of a...
If only I had Sirenscape up, I would give you that roll on snare. Ba-dum-tsh. Made a clerical error. Is Chibi still in the chat? Because she would have appreciated that. She's
Slow
not.
clap.
Yeah. Well, you got it from Kayla. So
We'll have to get that clipped and send it to Chibi.
yes, we made a clerical error. I don't know. This is kind of a tough one when you're dealing with this stuff.
Because a lot of it's the same, but they've changed some of the wording to make sure that you're casting spell slots. You're not using racial features to cast the spells without a slot, or items to cure the spells without a slot. That's why the Staff of Healing got mentioned. The Goodberry thing was a bit weird because I was never fully convinced that the life berry thing actually worked, because it says that it's when you cast a spell that restores hit points to a creature. And what Goodberry does is it creates some berries. Oh, the berries restore hit points to a creature if consumed. But it's not like the spell was doing a lot. The spell makes the berries, and it's up to you from there. It's not like Cure Wounds, where it says, as part of the spell, you restore these hit points. So I always thought the life berry thing was a bit of a...
Is it you count it as...
one anyway.
So I would argue that Goodberry is... It still counts because, yes, you're creating these berries, but they're not an actual fruit. They're not something that ever grew on a bush. They are a magical construct that has an effect. And they also don't last. Is it an hour they last or whatever, but they dissolve.
A day, I think.
They go away.
Hours, yeah.
So I would argue that direction, that you could say, I mean, you could obviously go in both directions, but I would say as a magical, it is just a tangible magical effect of the spell that requires input generally from somebody else. Like they have to.
It doesn't actually say they go away. It just says they lose their potency.
Personally, I just don't like the Goodberry spell at all. I wish it was gone.
I agree. It just annoys me. It kills Goodberry kills role play opportunities. Goodberry makes it completely
Makes survival checks pointless.
Yeah, it invalidates like any of your supplies. Like you have to have supplies. You have to actually have rations to take a long rest. You can't.
I want my
benefit
players
from
to
it.
starve to death. Goodberry
Well,
makes that difficult.
But people abuse it even when you're in like I have a group of my Friday night group. They're traveling through a verdant jungle. There's plenty of food to be had if they weren't carrying any of them themselves. And all they do is here's a good berry and you're good. You see the good berry and you're good. Why even travel?
Yeah.
As a healing spell, I don't mind it, but as a get out of food and water, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You just took that part out. Like the one hit point, I don't care. That's fine.
Right,
but the whole like you're sustained for an entire day, especially at such a low level spell, it's annoying.
Because I don't mind Hero's Feast doing it because it's a 6th level spell.
Yeah, it should be.
Create food or water your mileage may vary on, but a 1st level spell doing it is unacceptable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I'd just homebrew it to have a material cost of 1 day of rations and 1 day of water.
That's an interesting way
It provides enough for 10 people.
In other words, you're Jesusing it. It's like, here's the fish and breads. Now everyone gets enough.
Yeah.
So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you guys on this. It just completely kills role play opportunities. It takes some of the skill necessity out of, like you said, survival. Like if you have a ranger and a druid or somebody like that can actually do stuff like that, and then you have this sack cleric come by, it's like, oh, why are you guys going through the trouble? Just have some berries. You're good. It's just it kills role play opportunities and encounter opportunities.
Oh, go on, Jack.
I was about to say, just cover a good berry is a druid and ranger spell. So the people who would be scavenging are the ones who are instead casting the spell, except the poor monk. But it's still not great.
True, that is true.
But then it's still annoying because you're like, oh, I'm a ranger. I've got all these cool skills. I'm gonna go do these cool. Oh, I am from. I'll just cast this spell, and then I don't have to do. It's the laziest ranger ever. Why hunt if I can just live on good berries my entire life?
Go on, Jesse.
It's just them trying to put lembas bread into D&D.
Yes, exactly.
Lembas bread is bullshit as well.
Yeah.
I would have it do some kind of psychological effect. It'd be like, that's cool. I'm happy that I'm not starving to death by eating this single berry, but I really want a fucking steak. Can somebody give me a fucking steak?
Or if it was a drug type situation where if you took too many of them, or if you did it for too long, so you can't just be like, every single day I eat another good berry and I just stopped eating other food. Like if it had some sort of drug-like negative side effect, that would help.
Nutritionally, you're fine, but you still feel hungry.
Like you could get exhaustion points if you do it too many days in a row. You start getting exhaustion. Yeah.
Yeah. So
your body starts wasting away.
Sure, it helps you.
But exhaustion is the penalty for not eating. So if you introduce exhaustion, then you're kind of shadow banning the supply issue.
Just ban the whole fucking spell.
Remove it.
It doesn't exist.
Okay, we're gonna move on because we've only got 9 minutes left, and I want to apologize that we haven't had a chance to talk about the lore bard, but I want to get some final thoughts on how on the direction that Wizards of the Coast are going with classes in general. I will say myself before I pass it to the guys. Most of the stuff's good. There's definitely needs some changes to be implemented. It's probably good that they've kind of nerfed multi-classing a little bit. You can't abuse these 1-level dips in cleric, warlock, and sorcerer. And I think personally the main one for me is the ranger. And I think to echo what I said before, the top half, the front half of the ranger, looks a lot better, a lot more serviceable, stands out a little bit more, and mechanically is still very good. Just the back half of that needs some changes. Jordan, American, your final thoughts?
I think overall there's a lot of improvements, but yeah, I think there's just a lot of examples of just kind of getting lazy once you get above level 9. They just kind of stop caring, and you can see that in a lot of these things. Just they don't. High level D&D just needs a lot of work, but
Yes.
but hopefully they'll eventually start caring about that. But ultimately, I think they're in the right. They're moving in a better direction.
Matt?
I would agree. I almost completely with Jordan. They are definitely going in a better direction. We're still technically in playtest stuff, so I'm sure we're going to see a lot of these changes moving down the road, which means we'll have more ample opportunity for us to get together and discuss.
Yes.
But yeah, I definitely think it needs a lot more work, and Jordan's absolutely right that high level D&D it gets to ludicrous speed. It's just beyond, like it's what what's the point D&D at that point? It's just you could kill and beat everything. So, it's just it definitely needs some balancing and better abilities.
Yeah, I've been having to start throwing moral conundrums into all of my encounters just to make them complicated. Like, they're fighting a vampire, but it's also a 15-year-old boy. What do you do?
Sounds familiar, that story. Jack?
Yeah, so one thing that I've been surprised by is how little has changed about the new classes. They seem very similar to the old ones. But there have been some definite changes made along the way. And I've been surprised by, they've worked a lot of the front half of the cleric. In contradiction to my statement, they haven't changed much. That is something they've changed. I think they've done surprisingly well. I was concerned when I heard they were moving subclasses to 3rd level, that the cleric, the sorcerer, and the warlock would be a bit of a bust. But I think that if the warlock and sorcerer work the same way, that we'll get some good classes out of them. So in conclusion, make better full caster gishes. Bladesinger was terrific. The others are bad. And yeah, that's me.
JC, I'm gonna keep calling you JC now instead of American and British Jordan, because I remember I remember I call you JC, so you're getting JC.
Yeah, I absolutely I love the broad redevelopment of the classes to standardize how you build a class. It opens up homebrew in a way, makes it less likely for you to overpower your character, like your homebrew classes and the like. Class identity is strong, theming is strong. They all feel comfortable. They all feel. I would be happy to pick up any of these if I was invited to a party and they said, "We need someone of this skill set." I'd be happy to pick up any of these.
Good way of looking at it. Yeah. And I think to touch on some parts of what Matt was saying, Wizards of the Coast have already shown that they're listening to feedback and making changes, because if you compare the first Unearthed Arcana to the third one, you'll find things in there that have already changed from that first UA. So they are listening. They are taking our feedback, contrary to some of the reports that got leaked last week and in the past couple of days.
GL.
So yeah, no, I think it's looking good, and I think just to go on to piggyback onto some of the stuff Jack said as well, what they have stressed with this is it's not a overhaul of 5th edition. They want it to be supplementary. They want it to be backwards compatible, because they know the success that they've had with 5th edition, and they know how much people like it. So I think it's good that they're not doing a complete overhaul, and it's good that they're trying to isolate things that went wrong. Obviously, that's not a foolproof job that they've done by any means, but it is important, if you are watching this and you do care about D&D, to fill in those surveys and put your thoughts forward, because at the end of the day, that's the only way that you can ensure that your voice is heard and these changes are implemented going forward. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I guess we'll round out with some shameless plugs. So you can find me on Instagram at Sammy by the Gram, or on Twitter at Sammy on the Bird. And you can also find me playing actual play D&D on one of Matt's streamed games. That is the Strixhaven Curriculum of Chaos game, which take place every Saturday at 1 p.m. EST. You'll find me playing Charlotte Briarsong, the Bladesinger Wizard, Elven Bladesinger Wizard, and I'm sure that'll make Jack happy because, like he says, it's the best full castigish in the game, and I would agree. And yeah, that's all I'll say on that. Jordan.
I just wanted to point something out. You said these are shameless. There's at least one of them here that is definitely shameful. He's about to plug it right now.
For Shame Not Honor is our shameful stream. I'm not shameful. It's Kayla. No, she can't defend herself, so I can say that.
Yes, but she lives close enough to take it out on you. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah. Oh wait, we have to play. She's gonna yell at me tomorrow on your stream. So yeah, I run Sundays, not this Sunday, but other Sundays, 1 o'clock Portland time. I run D&D over at For Shame Not Honor. You can find us on socials, just For Shame Not Honor with the number 4. And then on Mondays I play in Matt's game, and it's a good time. Usually, Kayla's in chat. Usually we're drunk, so that's why we're shameful. But today I'm too tired to be drunk. But
All right. JC.
Yeah, you can find me over at TornCubedGaming on Twitch and YouTube. It's mostly gaming content, Minecraft and Pokemon and the like. But I am going to be starting a stream game very soon. I have all of the prep written for it now. So be prepared for that.
Where do I sign up? Perfect. Jack.
Hello, I'm Jack. You can find me over at the Fate of the Dice Twitch channel. In half an hour's time, we shall be streaming episode 5 of our bi-weekly Curse of Strahd stream. We've had a long hiatus over the holiday period, but are looking forward to get back into the swing of things. That's Fate of the Dice over at Twitch.
I think it's X Fate of the Dice X, right?
Yeah, sorry.
I think I got
X Fate of the Dice X over at Twitch.
I'll have to update that for you as well, because I just went with what you said. So yeah,
I got it right. The proper links there. And last but not least, I think that's it. No. Oh no, we got Matt. Go on, Matt.
All right, it's just my channel. Everyone, if you're here, you know about me. No, it's just me, Matt. I am RolePositiveGaming. I like to do all things D&D and talk all things D&D now that we have this little what's the crack Marra going on. So if you'd like to see these, by the way, continue, let us know in the Discord. See if you like this, we'll keep this thing going. So but yeah, I run 3 campaigns. I have Pirates of the Glass Sea. That's every Friday on from 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Mondays is also 7 to 11 Eastern Standard Time, and that's the Weight of Tears campaign. So you'll be able to catch that with Jordan and Kayla, who's in chat, tomorrow night, and every Saturday from 1 to 5. Hell am I doing? 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the Strixhaven campaign featuring Sammy and some other people, my ASMR group. And yeah, all things D&D. That's my thing. Thanks for being here today. Sammy, you want to take us out?
Yeah, last thing I want to say is if you joined halfway through, maybe you just joined now and you want to watch all this, you can obviously watch it back on the VOD. But you will also find a edited version up on YouTube in the coming days. So if I do !YouTube, please make sure you check out that link and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future What's the Crack Marra VODs. Yeah, I don't think you have a line for for ending the stream, so I'll just say thank you for listening or watching if you're doing that live, or if you're watching on YouTube or through the VOD. We appreciate that as well. And yeah, is it Saturday yet?
Not quite. See you guys later.